Okay, we just want to welcome everybody here. It's so great to see everyone. Tell everyone Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. It is December 18th, 2023, and it is 6 p.m. We have a quorum present, so our meeting is going to begin. We have some great recognitions tonight, but right now we're going to start off with the pledge, and Corbin is going to lead us in the pledge. Are you Corbin's mom?
Go ahead and do your thing.
Where?
Right there's perfect.
You're good, Corbin. You're good.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
to the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Corbin. Paul Arriaga is going to read our board mission statement.
Through high expectations and equitable opportunity, TMISD will focus on the whole child by providing a safe environment and a high-quality curriculum with diverse and enriching experiences.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Next, we're moving on to public comment, which is the time for members of the audience to address the Board of Trustees. Before we begin, I will remind our audience members of the board's procedures for handling public comments. Each public comment speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board, except that non-English speakers will be allowed a maximum of 6 minutes to address the board. Public comments shall be limited to discussion of items on tonight's agenda. Please keep your comments or criticisms civil and courteous, avoid using profanity, and refrain from making personal attacks on others during your opportunity to speak. Yelling, inappropriate, uncivil, or discriminatory comments will not be permitted. For a list of prohibited behaviors and conduct during public comment, please see TMISD Board Policy BED Local. Lastly, we ask that you not discuss students who are not your own child. I also caution you that your public comments are not intended for complaints about individual school employees or students. Public comment is also not intended to discuss employees by name or position or identify students other than your own child. As presiding officer, I am obligated to determine whether a person addressing the board has attempted to administratively resolve any complaints or grievances about which they want to address the board that involve district officers, employees, students, or parents. In the event your comment constitutes a complaint or charge against an employee, officer, students, or parents, it may be necessary for me to interrupt and direct you to proceed with the school district's formal grievance procedures, which can be found online and include policies DGBA, FNG, and GF. Thank you. Our first speaker is Melinda Arriaga.
Thank you, everyone. So a few years ago at the Toloso Midway All Sports Booster Club inception, we made it a point to be sure to support all of our athletics. Anything falls under the athletic department and under the direction of our athletic director, Chris O'Neill. We typically are able to provide things to our coaches and staff because of our membership drives, any donations that we receive, but our biggest fundraiser is the Warrior Wagon. So you'll see us out at football games, some baseball games, and we have that wagon full of merchandise. Mostly t-shirts, right? That is the number one seller. You see them everywhere, no matter where I go. I know it's like, hey, that's a Booster Club shirt. Even with the mass quantities that we order, sometimes the price point isn't always ideal for families. I have 4 children. If I buy one child a shirt at $25, that's $100. And that's a lot, especially right now in this economy. And that's because we're a 2-parent household that works full-time jobs, and there have been times when it gets really tough, and we know it. So our goal this year to do a community event was to have a t-shirt spirit drive. And that is exactly what we did. We put the call out to TM Nation and we asked them, give us your shirts. Give us those shirts that you no longer wear. For those of you that have seen your last Warrior or Cherokee cross the stage and you might not be making it to sporting events as often, give us those shirts so we can turn around and give them to our district. So today, Mr. Van Maitre, on behalf of Tiffany Almaguer and the Toloso Midway All Sports Booster Club, we would like to present to you and the board. This is half of the donations that we receive from TM Nation. And what these are all sorts of spirit shirts. So anyone in our district who could otherwise not have a shirt showing their love for TM could finally get one. These shirts we would like to give to you to hand off to communities and schools or our counselors at any of our campuses, to be given to any student that wants to show the strength of a warrior and the heart of a Cherokee but can't afford to get a shirt. We want to be able to provide that for them. We have shirts from youth to 2XL so we can cover the whole spectrum, and we'll be taking donations all year long, okay? So we can make sure that Warrior and Cherokee spirit is seen throughout. We even got a fantastic donation from the Toloso Midway Youth Football League as well to make sure that our little ones are always uniformed with our pride. We want that community spirit to continue no matter what their situation is. They'll always be beaming with it. So we wanted to present that to you today. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present, and we hope to see these on the backs of our students very soon.
Very much.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Right, now we're moving on to the favorite part of our meeting, which is the recognition of our students.
Madam President, members of the board, it truly is a special night at a special time. We are recognizing some very special Cherokees and Warriors. And to begin the presentation, I'll turn it over to our Special Education Director, Ms. Avala.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. It's so nice to see so many smiling faces, and we're so excited to have you here. This is a special moment for our athletes. Our athletes don't always get to attend the board meetings, so this is really neat to be able to see them and to also celebrate them. So we're going to start with the middle school. Right now what we're going to do is we're going to present the bowling event. They just competed in the bowling event about a month ago, and we're going to recognize them along with the different, with whatever they placed in the bowling.
2 months ago.
And we'll start with Miss. 2 months ago. 2 months ago. And Miss Aya.
Hold on a second. I promise you, next year, we won't take 2 months. I promise.
All right, we have Sebastian Flores in recognition of Special Olympics bowling silver medalist. In recognition of bowling gold medalist.
And parents, we are in no hurry. Let's make some memories tonight. So position yourself where you can take photos, and we will enjoy this.
All right, next we have Robert Baker in recognition of Special Olympics bowling silver medalist. Next we have Robert, say cheese.
Thank you, everybody.
Next, we have Jacob Torres in recognition of Special Olympics bronze medalist.
I forgot my medal.
Okay, Marcy. Okay, next we have Aaron Wallace, Special Olympics bowling bronze medalist.
There we go. Yay.
All right, next we have Amory Reyna. Come on. Students in middle school that weren't able to come. We have Amory Espinosa, gold medalist. Daviana Castillo, silver medalist. We have Kaden Keene, also silver medalist. We have Adrian Santos, silver medalist. And we have Emiliano Vasquez, gold medalist. We have Jared Johnson, fourth place. Followed by Aiden Prado, fourth place. Thank you, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. Ruiz. I am the Assistant Director for Special Education, and this is just a brief interlude for me to introduce the real superstars of the intermediate when it comes to Special Olympics. Ms. Olivio and Ms. Valdez, please come on down and recognize the students.
We're going to recognize the ones that are here first. I have Alex Arredondo. He participated in bowling and he got silver medal. Say thank you.
I wasn't trying to be mean. Behind you.
Good job.
We've got Arnold Arriaga. He got fourth place. Hi, Mr. Reese.
Hey, Marcy.
How are you? That's what 2 more school days.
I'm sorry. Cheese, Arnold.
Cheese. 2 more days, Marcy.
Congratulations.
Shake their hands.
Proud of you. Good job, buddy.
All right.
Proud of you, sir.
And I'm looking for Jacob Flores. He only got 4.
Will you help us get some awards for some special people? Right there, buddy. We have our mayor, Mayor McCarthy.
Right here.
The mayor.
Yeah, the mayor.
Smile, Jacob.
Come on, smile.
Take a picture. Ready?
There you go.
Go.
Okay, then we have Riley Jimenez.
Riley.
Look at Daddy on the Okay, we have Emma Kircher with a gold medal. Karen Stinnett, also gold medalist. Karen, you want to come take a picture? With your brother? No? Oh, okay, that's okay. And then we have some that here. We had how many? 22 or about 19 participants? Go ahead. Andon Gonzalez, silver medalist. Silver medalist. Garza, bronze medalist. Ethan Garza, bronze medalist. Jane Marcel, bronze medalist. Bronze medalist. Jeremiah Johnson, silver medalist. Lara, fourth place.
Good to see you. Picture here. Absolutely.
So last but not least, we have our high school campus. And we present the awards to our Miss Keemer. Yay, Miss Keemer! High school, we're up, Corbin. Are you ready? Are you ready? Yes. Okay. All right, so we have Marcy Garza.
Right in the middle. Keep going. Keep going. Right there. Good job, Marcy. Look at Mom over here.
That's a doctor.
Over here, Marcy. Look over here, Marcy. There you go. Look for Mama.
So next we have Jason Benavides.
We need pictures, Jason. These are taller, not like the others.
Yeah.
Move over.
Have a seat, Papacito.
Okay, I just need about 10 more.
Cheese.
We're going to come over here, and we're going to see the rest of the high school guys.
Guess what?
Countdown.
That's coming.
We only have 2 more school days and we're out for winter break. Okay, we're almost done. And then we can go home.
So next we have Daniel Garza.
to have you here with these children today.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Thank you.
Very honored.
It's my pleasure and honor.
It's been an honor to have you here today, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Mayor.
Next, we have Sammy Kono.
Picture, Sammy.
They're tall.
He's so tall and from this side. Oh, he's so tall. Way to go, Sammy.
Way taller.
Wow.
Tell me about it. I'm like looking
Let's go.
Next, we have Michael Stapuderich.
Catch you, Michael. We're done. Michael,
Very good.
were you able to get it, sir?
Did you want to get it? One more, Michael.
We can get you up there.
Mama shot it.
Sure. I'm doing a video.
Michael, go back.
Come on over here.
Dad.
Press the inarm.
Way to go, Michael.
All right, Michael.
Corbin Estes.
Don't block Miss Selena. Stand in the middle. There you go.
Miss Alicia, way to go, Corbin.
Thank you. So good job, Corbin.
That smile.
Very good.
Almost. Almost, I know, almost.
Hey, Corbin's mom. And for those who aren't here, we have Hector Flores. Jaden Rios. Justin Flores. Evan Moran. Jacob Wagner. Nicholas Martinez. Brandy Rodriguez. Francesco Usai. And Andrew B.
Mayor Harder, would you like to say a few words to our parents and students?
First of all, thank you for having me and for allowing me to be here as a part of such a special event. And this is very important. I want all the students to hear me. As your mayor, it is super important that you know how proud I am of you. How proud of all these certificates. They mean so much. So I'm super proud of you. I wanted to make sure that I was here to be able to say congratulations and good job. Right, Daniel?
Yes.
Some of the athletes are not here.
We have another group.
When are you gonna come? Right here.
We have another group coming.
When?
I want to take the
Miss Salinas.
council.
When are some of our athletes coming?
Oh, we're gonna take those back.
When?
They're like this.
Bye.
Bye, Daniel. Bye, Daniel.
Bye, Daniel.
You want to get in?
Is there anything happening?
Oh, we're just handing this meeting.
Can I take a picture with Marcy and Corbin? Come on.
Are you going to bring the chairs together?
Oh, they're still please stand up.
Okay, stand up.
Ready, stand up.
And hold, do you want your the certificates to face up?
Change it.
Okay, good job. Thank you.
Ready? Smile for us.
Bye, Arnold. Hope it's good to see you.
Thank
Glad you're here.
Yes, sir. Oh, no, we're fine. They've taken pictures since they were in kindergarten, so we have them all. Yeah, so we have to get one for tonight. I thank y'all so much.
Thank y'all.
Oh, yes, definitely. Thank you. Hey, Marcy, ready? School's almost out. I'm so excited. I know. Hey, guys.
Bye. How many more times do you? But Leo can't.
Hey, guys. Have a good night. Yes, ma'am. Who is ready? Bye. Bye. Who is ready? Thank you. Who is ready for Christmas? Who's ready for Christmas and New Year's of 2024? Everybody give a big round of applause.
I need to get mine.
No, but teachers have more.
Thank you guys for coming.
Yes. Right there.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
There's my friend.
Have a good one, ma'am. Push that back in there, ma'am.
Yeah,
Let's do the school board. You want to get your certificate? I'll let you know then.
Girl, I get what I get.
Oh, good job, Jason.
So okay, maybe I should get a bunch of gravy steaks from Thanksgiving on there. Remember when we ate turkey?
I moved the chair behind you. I don't want her to sit down. I know. I can have more room.
Ready, Jason? Smile. 1, 2, ready. Say Christmas.
Got
it. Yeah, no, you're good. I forgot the kid. Stay right here. Let me get your certificate. And then we're going to
Cindy, yes.
Are you ready to go?
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
See you, Jason.
Okay, bye.
Hey, let me get you the keys, Laura.
Go ahead and go to elementary so they know.
Hello, Miss Wendy. We have the mayor here that's going to help us.
Awesome. Hi, how are you? Good. Wendy Pratt. Nice to meet you.
And then getting better now.
How are you guys doing?
Just does.
You've been doing okay?
I've been doing good. How are you?
I saw you guys. Oh, yes.
What am I doing? This isn't the Richard.
Yes, sir. Were you looking for me? Patrick.
No, you're not. I didn't know there was another recognition.
Okay.
Done. You got it.
Yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow at the baseball field.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate your support.
Oh, I've been his supporter since he's been in.
That's right. He's a good one.
Yupper, that's what I tell him.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow. All right, take care. Come here.
Here, want a picture, Aaron? Yeah.
I love it. Here, let me pull it.
Aaron, look at Grandma.
Cheese.
Ho, ho, ho. He's the jumping bean.
All right, I'm on.
You are on.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board and Mr. Van Mitri.
This November, I took a group of students to the Texas State Thespian Festival, and we had a record number of students that qualified for nationals, so they're here tonight to be recognized. In addition to our 15 students that qualified for nationals, 4 of the events got called back for main stage out of 30 events that were called for main stage out of, I want to say there was 700 events there. We had the most out of any school in San Antonio. So there was 4,000 attendees, and we had 4 of those students called back for main stage and 1 make main stage. So we're here to recognize.
Yes. They should just. It's okay, it's okay.
No,
Wonderful.
these are national qualifiers, correct?
Yes, national qualifiers with the International Thespian Festival. So we'll try and take them there this summer to Bloomington, Indiana to compete on the main stage.
Representing TM and Corpus Christi.
Exactly, I love it.
First up is Adam Alvarez.
Congratulations. Let's get a picture
Get a
here.
picture.
Do we want everybody?
Get everybody. You want to get in the middle? Get everybody.
There we go, that's good.
Right there.
Yes, right there. And then let's move
You have
accordingly.
to move around.
Kim?
I'm all right here.
Yes, okay. Okay, now y'all stay there for the next one. There we go.
All right.
Shake everyone's hand now.
You know the routine, so you get up here now.
Congratulations.
Mateo Carrizales.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Let's take pictures.
And this one's a freshman in our group.
Oh.
Okay. Thank you.
Ariana Cruz.
Good job.
We're gonna take a picture. Okay.
Andrew Diaz. Jacob Garcia.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good job.
And next up is Hannah Henderson. She was one of our main stage qualifiers with her duet partner. Perfect scores from all 3 judges.
Congratulations. Awesome job.
Congratulations. Perfect, keep it going.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Daniel Jimenez. In his suit.
Love it. Congratulations.
Nice to meet all of you.
Congratulations. Which needs my shirt, right?
Good job.
Bernadine Lanningham, also perfect scores on her monologue from all 3 judges.
Yes.
Alyssa Spalik. Benjamin Starkey.
Congratulations. Keep it going, man. Good job. Good job.
Blair Stearns, who also had perfect scores on a solo musical and was featured in the main stage production that they did up there. That was an all-state cast.
I follow your mom's college application, 16 process, super intense. Crazy.
Cesar Trevino.
Good job. Good job. Thank you.
Last but not least, Michaela Wong, who also had perfect scores with her duet acting partner, Hannah. The same duet that actually scored a perfect score at nationals as well and ended up with a thespian and got to walk the red carpet.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you so much for bringing us over here to document. Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thank you guys.
You did a great job. Enjoy your Christmas vacation, and we'll see you 23rd. No, they still have 2 more days, don't they?
A lot of, yes.
Sure, it didn't start tonight.
See you tomorrow. Right now, we're going back. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you. Still want it on your daughter's music program, you know, one of these days. Maybe they'll come back. I don't got Maddie for like lunch. How are you?
I think I should be in the front.
Get out of the way so y'all can squeeze in.
Whichever. All of them?
This is great. Get in there, Coach.
Yeah, get
I'm
in there.
good. It's about that.
What's that?
The same thing.
Take my time?
Good job. Thank
Oh my God.
It's okay, there should be plenty of parking now. The maroon ones that have wheels. Are we still missing a shirt?
No? Is there, I think we're, oh, this one. 1, 2, 3, yeah, no. Pulse, yeah.
All right, I think it's.
I don't know where those go.
Let me go get it.
I think those are or want to shift them down? Maybe, is that Kenneth's?
This one, we stole them from that side of the building.
Slide in.
It doesn't get much better than that, does it?
No, that's
That was awesome.
I don't know where they got that chair.
Yeah, I remember us talking about it.
Oh, front of the building.
Just put, I think they're in the front. I think they're the front chairs.
Stole a chair.
Where's that go?
Try sometime, somewhere that way.
All the way back to back.
It's dirty, I don't want it.
I will get mine.
No, it's okay.
Me and Adrian in the baseball field.
Yeah, is that right?
I don't know if he told you or not.
I haven't talked to him.
He's, let me tell you something. So I go in there.
Switch with me.
It's either
You sure?
That was on the town.
This one got COVID on.
Which one does?
And so,
Which one's
there's
got
two rooms
COVID?
and where
It's
he's
a
at,
joke.
and I'm in one, and he's bringing the cake in, and he had a slate, and he had eaten one whole slice of that cake. Proud of him. I know.
Another team.
And so, yeah, it tickled me.
Yeah, it's nice. I'll tell that story soon.
You ready for this one? Yes, sir. Mr. Sanchez, we're going to turn this over to you. You run, without a doubt, one of the best youth sports programs I've seen or been a part of. Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. First off, I want to thank the board for making this possible. And I also want to thank the mayor and her office. They were very generous and very accommodating. And we appreciate that. And before we turn it over to the mayor, I want to say a few words. You know, it's tough for me not to get emotional about this because Bill and Kathy have meant so much to the program. And they do so much for the program that, you know, Bill and Kathy never ask for anything in return. They never have. You know, I've met a lot of people in my lifetime. And that happens, I guess, when you're old. You know, that's just part of life. But on the other hand, you only meet a few people that really make an impact on your life and make you a better person. And that's Bill and Kathy Lathrop, and they've done that. And I know that I don't speak just for myself. I know there are a lot of people who would say the same thing as well. You know, I think it's real fitting that we are here tonight. And I don't believe in chance. I don't believe in luck, and I don't believe in fate. You know, I really wanted to get this happening earlier in the year, but I think this is the right time for this to happen. You know, as the world is celebrating the birth of our Savior and our Lord, you know, we are here to recognize Bill and Kathy Lathrop, who through their examples and through their life, following the word of our Lord, have become, you know, true servants and champions of Tolosa Midway. You know, they have love for the community. They have, you know, they're true servants. They put the interests of others before their own, and that is not by accident, and that is by what they preached and what they lived. And so, you know, I'm very honored to know Bill and Kathy Lathrop. They're just, if you don't know them, you have to really sit down and know them, because you too will become, you're already good people, but you'll become even better people because of their, of just knowing them. And again, you know, I want to thank you again, Steve McMurtry. When I first met him, has been on board with the program, and he's always told me whatever we need. You know, we're all in the same business, and that's the business of kids, and the same can be said for Bill and Kathy as well. And again, I want to thank you. I'm going to thank the mayor's office for being here. And of course, I want to thank Bill and Kathy Lathrop.
Sure. Sure. Well, with that, we want to commend you, Bill, as mentioned, for being everything. It's really just who you are. And that's the beauty of this, is none of us, you know, especially in a community dealing with our children, of course, cannot do it alone. And so the gifts that you've given, I know I speak for everyone, are invaluable. And so much so that we thought, well, not we, but I'm here to give you the commendation on behalf of the city of Corpus Christi because of what's been shared. And it's people like yourself that we love to commend, that we love to say thank you, because this city can't be what it is without people like you doing what you do together. But we truly appreciate it. We truly do. So with that, I will read the certificate of commendation on behalf of the city of Corpus Christi. So Mr. Bill Lathrop, proprietor of BC Equipment Sales Incorporated, has generously provided financial assistance to the Tolosa Midway Youth Activities Program for over 20 years. Mr. Lathrop has purchased athletic equipment, medals for each participant, and personally sponsored an end-of-season snow cone gala for the players and coaches. Mr. Lathrop has made a tremendous difference in the Tolosa Midway community and has always been an avid supporter of the local youth. His generous efforts have enhanced the Tolosa Midway Youth Activities Program and provided positive athletic recreation and mentorship. So on behalf of the city of Corpus Christi, we thank you for your support of the Tolosa Midway Youth Activities Program. Thank you for your strong dedication to our youth.
Larry, this would be Larry over here getting this, and we're just thankful that we get to help these kiddos and to make a difference in their lives, and it's been so much fun through the years just watching the different ones come along and the things that they've done. I was just telling the story to someone, the coach. We're standing out there, but a little girl, probably 10 or 12 years ago, and they were trying out for softball, and we were standing there, and one of the coaches asked the little girl, said, "Have you ever played softball before?" And she said, "No." And they pitch her the ball, and wham, she hits it, and hey, pretty good. And they throw her another one, and she hits it, and the coach said, "I thought you hadn't ever played ball before." And she said, "I hadn't." He said, "Well, where'd you learn to hit?" And she said, "I have a Wii at home." You gotta have the eye-hand coordination to do that. And but our kids, went to school here. Kathy went to school here in '77. She graduated from TM, lived across the street. But we're happy to help and try to make a difference in these kids' lives. But all of y'all in this room have helped do that too, and
a great job.
We're thankful and
Lots to
honored.
be proud of.
Yep.
I grew up in a very economically disadvantaged home, and I was in the youth sports program, kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. Thank you. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. So
Well, we enjoyed doing all of it and watching them, and thank y'all so much. This means a lot to
I
us.
just want to say something too. I mean, Bill and Kathy, they've, donated to TM, not just the youth activities program, but they've generous donors to the Education Foundation, to the Cheer Booster Club, Athletic Booster Club. And it doesn't stop there. They're very involved in the Buck Days Pro Rodeo, the Wesley Community Center, you name it. They open up their pockets, both of them, and it's fitting that we have the mayor here because it's not just this community, it's the entire community. Thank you, Bill and Kathy, for everything.
Thank you
so very much. Get out of the picture.
Okay, if I could have you stand over here real quick and I'll get you. Sorry, I had to move.
Thank you all so much.
So much. I remember you. I know, I remember you too. Y'all are a true blessing.
Larry's a blessing.
Yeah, that's our oldest daughter.
Oh, well, I was at the high school when she was a student, so I think that
Questions. I have two bosses.
Mr. Sanchez on the other side.
Yeah, that's right.
Never.
I'm mine. I keep mine. Plenty of food in mine.
I get hangry sometimes.
Jim's is
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
It's okay.
For me, I appreciate it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, thanks.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for doing it all.
Yes. Okay, y'all have a good night.
No, sir.
Awesome. That's awesome. You're awesome. You go back a long way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's been a while.
I heard it.
Yeah.
For you guys, what do you guys think? Oh, that's right. Mr. Dr. White said he was going to.
All right. What an awesome night.
Unbelievable.
Moving on to agenda item number 5A, information and a presentation investment advisory.
Madam President, members of the board, this is an agenda item associated with the successful passage of the $165 million bond election. At the advice of our financial advisor, Mr. Carroll and I began looking at investment advice and consultation. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Carroll to talk a few things and introduce our guest.
Good evening, everyone. We have today is Emily Upshaw, right? Yep. Yes. She's with the firm Valley View Consulting. I might not be saying their name right. Yes. And their firm, like Mr. Van Mitri said, we've got a situation that's never happened before with interest rates, and we've got some money coming to us that, yes, we're going to use for the bond projects, but now we have the opportunity to have someone assist us to invest them and get the maximum that we can of them for the dollars while we're not using them. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Upshaw.
Good evening. That's going to be a hard presentation to follow, but
Oh, gosh, yes. I would hate to be following.
I'm here to try to help, so we'll talk about that. Does that have all of the slides on it, or is it? Okay, I won't take up too much of your time, but I do have a few slides just to introduce us as a firm. We're Valley View Consulting. We help districts and cities and colleges across the state whenever they bring funds in, typically tax revenue, sometimes it's bond funds. Right now, districts are in a very unique situation where market interest rates are extremely high relative to what the cost is for debt issuances. So a lot of folks have been coming to us with help to try to invest those funds, take advantage of it while you have it. That way you can try to offset as much cost as you can for those debt issuances that you have. So we wanted to come here, introduce who we are. If you would like to move forward with that assistance, we'd be more than happy to help you, but we wanted to offer it as an opportunity. So we wanted to take you through that. So our approach, we're kind of a small boutique style firm. We work directly with clients and develop strategies based on them specifically. So you have this new debt issuance. What we would do, we would help staff essentially act as a part-time staff person, and we would help them develop an investment strategy and then go out and execute it. Being that you are a school district subject to state law, you have very specific investments that you can utilize. So they're very plain, very vanilla. You can't go out and use stocks out in the market. So everything is very, very safe. It's just coming up with that strategy and actually developing that consistency is really what's needed. Not everybody has the resources to do that. So that's where our firm comes in. We help develop that routine, coach the staff. Ultimately, the goal would be they would learn enough that if you ever brought it back in-house and they would go through that investment process themselves, they would understand the law and how to apply it, and they could continue maintaining that investment strategy over time. So that's what we do. We focus on your investment portfolio. Obviously, right now you have a lot of cash. You're using the investment pools. That's worked out very well, actually, because we've had interest rates that have skyrocketed over the past 2 years. And while it's been in cash, that's been a perfect place for it to be. We're getting to the point now where rates are starting to go back down. So the strategy becomes locking in those investments for longer term maturities for as long as possible to maintain as much yield as you can get out of those funds. So the reason I'm here early before you actually receive those funds is so you can hit the ground running. Once those funds come in, because interest rates are going down, you'll want to get those investments locked in as soon as possible to try to take advantage and offset your cost. But ultimately, your investment portfolio, all cash right now, what we would do, we would add new cash options. So a money market account that's paying higher than the pools.
Just a second, you don't have the presentation?
No, neither one of us do.
That's okay, I can keep going.
Okay.
Do you have it?
I don't know, let me check.
So my pause, or do you want me to keep going?
That's up to you.
Okay, but the information is really just for information, so you guys can look back at it. But ultimately, your strategy, when you bring those funds in, like I said, we want to get it invested as soon as possible. You're also subject to the arbitrage rebate regulations. So essentially, what you over-earn beyond what the cost is of that debt, you send back to the IRS. So the goal here is to earn more so that you have to rebate back to the IRS. That tells your taxpayers, your constituents, we've done the best that we can with the funds while we have them. So you're trying to offset as much cost as possible with that. Our firm, when you see the contract example, you'll notice that we're actually Virginia registered. I don't want that to scare anybody. Our owner, he married a Virginia girl. He knew he'd have to move back there one day, and so that happened. So we are Virginia registered, but 95% of our clients are Texas-based. This is the bread and butter, what we do. We don't work on any pension funds or mutual funds or local government investment pools. All we do is focus on clients like you that have funds to invest. We develop strategies specific to you, and that's what we work with. So we're really trying to tailor everything. So in addition to what we do, you'll see we're going to go over the investment policy tonight. Like I said, we want to hit the ground running if we decide to move forward. So we went over the investment policy, and we have some updates that we would propose just to give you some more flexibility, to reduce some of the risk that's currently in there, and to make it a little more flexible for staff when they're trying to implement an investment strategy. And I think that's all I have for that, but I wanted to be here to answer any questions. I know this is very different from what you're used to doing because we haven't been in this investment environment in over a decade. So we wanted to make sure.
Do you have that slide deck that you could email it so the board could have somewhat of a visual to match with your words?
And I have to email it from my phone.
One of our neighbors, London ISD, has taken advantage of this opportunity, and then Palacios ISD, that their superintendent's a TM graduate, has taken advantage of this. So I reached out to both of them, and they were very positive about what they've been able to turn with their bond funds, that instead of it laying idle, as Emily was saying, being able to lock in at a higher rate and then moving forward.
I have a question while we're waiting. Does your company charge by like a flat fee or a percentage-based fee?
It's based on assets under management, so it'd be a percentage. I think the contract was 6 basis points. So just as trying to comprehend what that fee means, as an example, the pools that you utilize, TextPool is say I wrote all these down. TextPool charges you 4.5 basis points for assets under management. Techstar is 6 basis points, and Texas Class is 8 to 10 basis points. So essentially, we're developing a strategy tailored to you, doing quarterly investment reports, updating your investment policy on an annual basis, and just really trying to educate staff and everyone involved for essentially the same price of a pool. And that's the goal, at least. We can certainly email it to you. I don't want to waste anyone's time tonight.
Okay, so based on what she said, is there any questions regarding what the services would be
I
for
have a
her firm?
question, and it's just about strategy. Is it the strategy that you're gonna use, the one similar to what you use with other, specifically school districts?
Yes.
It is?
Yes, so it would be similar, but it would be tailored to your projects, because this spending is going to be project-driven. So we would work with staff to get a project schedule, just an idea of when spending is going to occur, and the idea is to have maturities occur when those funds are needed.
So you're not developing one specifically for this district? You are using one that you utilize in?
It would be your project specific. So we would get project schedules from your district,
Okay.
what you're expecting those spending patterns will be. And we would develop the strategy based on that. So it's all your spending.
All right.
Yeah, it wouldn't be somebody else's.
How many school districts do you have contracts with right now?
That is a
In
good
this,
question.
well, in this area, in the
this
South
area,
Texas area?
Palacios ISD and London ISD are the ones in this general area. We also work with Calhoun County ISD and Longview ISD, but those are a little more out of your region. But more recently, it's been Palacios and London that's been in the same situation that you are.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. I think I have the.
Look forward to getting the email.
Thank you for the information.
Emily, you can send it to me and I'll forward it to the board.
Okay, will do. Do I have the next item on the agenda too?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to the agenda, item 5B, discuss and consider first reading of investment policy update to CDA local.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes, I don't know if you remember, but part of the Public Investment Act requirement is every year we're supposed to re-adopt the investment policy or reaffirm it, more likely. I've never offered any changes to this. We have pretty much the standard TASB boilermate, even for the local policy, which is pretty limited because the confines of the Public Investment Act is very narrow. Like Ms. Upshaw said, we're very limited on what we can invest in, how we can do it, the instruments that we're allowed to use. So, but in this situation with Valley View Investments, they looked at our investment policy. I normally do that every January or February, that annual renewal that's required. So they came up with some suggestions to bring our local policy, and she said, make it a little more clear, maybe make it a little just more, just better. Because these are the experts, these are the people that deal with this kind of stuff. So I've looked at it, obviously there's quite a few changes, but you'll look at it, it's pretty just nuances of, phrasing things a little better and then kind of tweaking our strategies, which really are not changed. Yield is not we're not out to make a fortune here. We're not, that's usually not the top priority. It's, liquidity, safety, those are other factors that are pretty important too. And so y'all do have a copy that shows like all the changes, the proposed changes of the policy. And so we wanted to go ahead and get the first reading done this month. And so then we can do the second reading in January and get the policy updated. So if y'all have any questions about any of the recommended changes, Ms. Upshaw could probably just maybe go through some of the major ones, at least talk about just like the tweaks to the strategies, and also expanding. I will say one thing on there says, we can't invest in thing that has a maturity of more than a year. Well, we're talking about expanding that a little bit to give us a little bit more opportunities. And I'll leave that to Ms. Upshaw to kind of delve into that.
So, I don't fully understand what we're talking about here, but I think I have an idea, right? So when you say yield is not our mission, safety and liquidity is, then what?
Yield is necessarily not, it's not our top priority, as a government.
But how unsafe are we if we don't do it?
No, I'm saying we're also concerned more about investments that are solid, that, are gonna have less chance of volatility, or that's what the Public Investment Act pretty much narrows it down to, where we don't have a lot of options.
And do you have information on your success rates?
For what yield is?
Mm-hmm.
It's all.
No, not necessarily for yield, but even for the whole thing. Do you have people that are unsuccessful? And
You should not have a government that loses money, ever.
Right.
So we never have. But how you actually invest and what you earn is based on market movement. Every economy is a cycle.
Right.
So it's strongly driven by what happens in the economic cycle. We just happen to be in one where rates are very high. So the investment policy, the TEA policy is very basic. So all we were trying to do is, like I said, add specific detail about what actual processes are, how to keep you even safer than what the current policy is, and to give you a little bit more flexibility when you have those bond funds come in. So we did change the language. You'll notice here, optimum is the word that you would prefer over highest. You don't necessarily want to go with the highest because it might have a little bit more risk with it. So that was the reason for the change. And it's very minor items like that we put in here. We did add a second investment officer. We always recommend you have two. That way, if somebody's out at the office or if someone changes jobs, you always have somebody else that's there to be able to handle the investments for the district. Some of this was just moving items around. We were matching up the language with the actual Public Funds Investment Act. So you'll see some of the additions to language are just very basic. We did add some language here to allow you to utilize financial institution deposits. So that would include more than just CDs. That would mean money market accounts or any other checking accounts that are earning higher interest rates than your pools might be. We removed some of the investment options that the PFIA allows just because they present more risk that we don't think is necessary for a district or any local government to take on. In particular would be the commercial paper. That would be debt issuances from companies. And we think that is a risk that's not necessary for a district like yours to take on. If you want to utilize commercial paper, it's better to utilize a local government investment pool that already invests in commercial paper, because it gives you more diversity. So that was the reason for the change there.
Can I ask a question? Sure. Can you be more specific on what does no load mean?
No load, okay. So no load means no fee. So when you have money market mutual funds, sometimes they will charge you a fee to put your funds in place. No load means they cannot charge you upfront or when you sell. So that's just PFIA specific. Yep.
Just a quick question. I mean, the investment policies or strategies that I've seen typically limit you on what types of investment vehicles, bonds, stocks, international equities, whatever. Is there anything that's more detailed in terms of what your limitations are?
This list right here is, all of these right here are the approved investment instruments. So this list is essentially what the PFIA allows. The items that we've marked off here, like number 4 and number 5 and 6, those either are kind of archaic investment vehicles that don't really exist anymore, or in the case of commercial paper, just add too much risk to a portfolio.
But they don't limit you by percentages of the whole?
No.
Okay.
Diversity is something that you have to keep in mind as well.
Yes.
The trainings that are required, do you all provide the training, or how do our officers get the training?
Yeah, they have to go to specific independent training sources, and actually at the next reading, you'll be receiving the approve, or the list for you to review and approve for the investment officer training. It has to be independent, so we would not qualify as a provider. Okay.
I actually went to the training last week.
Okay.
At the service center.
Okay.
Alright, so in here for the liquidity and maturity section, this is where it used to provide that you wouldn't invest longer than a year. The PFIA does require that you have investment strategies for specific fund types, so we've actually addressed all of this down underneath the fund strategy specifically, so that's the reason there's a bunch of deletions there. We included that you need an internal management report, so that would be your quarterly report that comes to you. And here's where you get into your fund-specific strategies. So the operating, you would be able to invest up to 2 years, right here, and then you have an appropriate benchmark. So we've gone through and added that for each of your investment fund types. Debt service, yes.
That's where my question was. So right now, the rolling 3-month treasury bill is like slightly above 5%. And I feel like our investment pools are already hitting that target. So the reason for wanting an outside consultant is just because the larger sum of money that's coming?
Not necessarily the larger sum, it's the change in investment environment. So we're at a point where we've probably hit the peak. So all of those local government investment pools will start to decrease the rates. If you invest in fixed income, like a CD, you can lock in, say, 5.2% for 1 year. So you're protecting yourself from whenever those rates start falling.
So, okay, when we start building this, let's say the CT building in 18 months, the money geared towards the CT building is going to be in a locked investment pool till that term?
Parts of it could be.
Okay.
But that's where we
That's
look at,
the general idea,
we look
though.
at the schedules and we look at, once we, we're a long way away, we've got to get an architect, we've got to, get a contract, we've got to start building. But you can pretty much schedule out, you get billed in the monthly building apps, you can kind of ladder out, how we think how we're going to need the money. So that's when we talk about, we got to look at the projects, look at the timing to say, hey, this amount, this chunk of money, whether it's $1 million or $500,000, whatever, we can park that somewhere for 18 months because we know we're not going to need it for 18 months or a year, whatever. That's where the scheduling comes in, and looking at when we're going to need the money and make sure that the funds are liquidated so we can use them when we need them. But maximizing our revenue and our investing as we go along.
So today we're hitting this target, but we're not confident we can continue to hit the target with the market changing?
I will say.
Solo is my,
Right. I am not an investment expert, and it's not that I couldn't be, but man, it's a lot better to have someone that has more of the experience to help us with this and make sure that we're doing everything and maximizing everything and doing everything.
But I'll also add something to that. The government pools that you're using, they will likely stay with the 3-year treasury. Their rates are going to be about equivalent. So it wouldn't be like you're amending these policies and then you're not able to meet those. So, and it's not a requirement, it's just a benchmark yield. So it would be very close even if you were to stay with the pools. All right. Safekeeping and custody, we just cleaned up the language. We wanted to make sure there was a distinction between safekeeping, which is if you were to buy securities as an investment, someone holds it for you. Custody would be if somebody's holding some collateral for you. So we just cleaned up the language there. We inserted some additional language for the collateral section, just so banks understand whenever you enter an agreement with bank, they have to provide a perfected security interest for any collateral they provide. That's just a fancy way of saying that the FDIC would recognize that that belongs to you if something were to happen to the bank. We always make sure that it's a competitive environment, so you're getting multiple quotes from whatever investment vehicle you're looking at, whether it be securities or CDs or money market accounts, what have you. Internal controls, this one always cracks me up. The TEA one says control of collusion. We don't want to control it, we want to avoid it.
Yeah.
And then finally, just making sure the language is in here that your annual audit is going to be provided by an auditor to the board whenever they get the results of it.
Can you talk about how we would be advised regarding arbitrage?
Yes. So the arbitrage rebate regulations, essentially what we would do, we would create a timeline to watch how your investments are performing over the first temporary period is 3 years. So we look at that 3-year period and try to estimate if you might have an IRS tax liability. The actual calculation has to be done by an arbitrage rebate consultant. There are specific CPAs. They do a calculation based on present value. That's way over my head. But that calculation should probably be done on an annual basis, given the environment that we're in. A lot of auditors request that it be done annually. So you would need to work with a consultant to do that. But we try to manage it as best as we can. If we see that you have a liability, we'll obviously keep you informed and let you know you can't spend those funds because they're there for the IRS rebate. But we do keep an eye on that based on timing for the investments.
And that is a long game. Like she said, we have to look at things over a 3-year period. I don't think you have to pay the money maybe for like 5 years, but it is something that we'll look at. We will have to engage someone to help us annually start looking at that calculation so we're prepared for it. But it's the long game. It's a 5-year plus process if and when we do have to send any money back because of these rules. They don't want you to make more money. They want you to be spending this bond money on what you're supposed to be spending it on. So they don't want you to make more money than, I don't know, maybe what the investors are making on it. So.
Any questions?
Good information, thank you.
So in moving forward, there'll be an agenda item in January regarding a recommendation to retain the services of Valley View and approve the second reading at your discretion.
And as Ms. Upshaw, that's January, February is when I would normally have y'all renew the investment policy and then also renew the broker list and the training options that we have for the people that, like myself and Kathy, that do the investment officer training.
All right, thank y'all so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Great information. All right, moving on to discussion/action. Agenda item 5C, discuss and consider reorganization of board member officer positions.
Madam President, members of the board, at the request of the trustee that put that item on the agenda, they've asked to remove it.
It's not this, but if, for information about education and board operations and all that, HB3 has a real good, I think it was in September of 2019, a real good video on board operations, and it explains a lot about education and board relationships and that kind of thing. If you don't have time to look at it, it just explains a lot about board operations and education. So I think it's very interesting. It's an old one, I think. It's been a while, but I know it's there. So just FYI.
Send the link and I'll send it out to everybody?
I can, yeah. Just FYI.
Thank you, Janie. All right, moving on to 5D, discuss and consider approval of interlocal agreement for development.
Madam President, members of the board, we were struggling with trying to gain city permits I'm glad you're here, Councilman Pusley. We were struggling with getting the required permits to move our discipline educational placement facility to the facility that we've been paying rent on for half a year. Subsequently, we ran into a gentleman with the City Developmental Services, and in a matter of, it seemed like hours instead of days, it was done. And so Mr. Hernandez is going to bring you for perhaps approval, hopefully approval, to enter into an interlocal agreement, which I have absolutely found zero downside and some major advantages for us to be involved in. Mr. Hernandez?
Madam President, board members, first of all, I'd like to recognize Mr. Pusley with the city and Mr. Michael Dice, the Assistant Director for Developmental Services. They're here to answer any questions that we might have. This is the planets aligning perfectly with us. With us building a new junior high and CTE building, this is just heaven sent. It's not a new program. My understanding is they got the idea, or they modeled it after the city of San Antonio had an interlocal agreement with their school districts, very similar to this. They took it, they tweaked it and improved on it, and they brought forth a resolution that's been, as of now, been passed by CCISD, West Oso ISD, and Cal Allen ISD. So hopefully we'll pass this on tonight. Some of the benefits to this interlocal agreement include reduced permitting fees, expedited permit reviews, and reviews by designated staff. Looking at the fees, for projects over $5 million, we will receive a 50% reduction in permitting fees. Projects under $5 million, the district will receive a 25% reduction in permitting fees. I think one of the biggest advantages, the expediting the review process. Instead of us having to wait for having 100% plans, now when our architect gets plans at 90%, we can go ahead and submit those, and the city can start reviewing those. So by the time we come up with 100%, we're already going to have recommendations from the city to already start making corrections. The days, they had up to 2 weeks, 3 weeks to review that. That time has been shortened considerably. So they're going to focus and give school districts the attention that we need to move these projects forward. In addition, we'll be dealing with a smaller pool of reviewers. That was my problem when I was trying to get the DAP passed. There were 6 people at the front office. They are all very friendly. I told them they have the nicest staff ever. However, every time I took the permits and the plans and was trying to get my certificate of occupancy, it was a new hurdle each person I went to. So by having one or two people, our plans will be reviewed in a steady progress. Mr. Mostella, I think you were here when the last time we did anything, and that was with the Ag Barn. We ran into some major challenges with the Ag Barn. The city was requesting that we develop everything around the area. And our argument was that we're a governmental agency. We're not a developer. We didn't have the funds to develop all the infrastructure and everything. So it took some back and forth. So I think with this interlocal agreement, it's a great partnership with the city. They're going to help us, we'll be looking for land soon to build this new junior high, and they'll be with us step by step, helping us with the infrastructure and making recommendations and stuff. It's just a win-win. Like Mr. Van Major said, I don't see any negatives to this.
Can you ask the gentleman to say a few words?
Yes, I was going to open it up to him. If I missed anything.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words and thoughts. It is, I think, a win-win for everybody. And so on behalf of Councilman Roy, he could not be here tonight. His daughter is at a very important volleyball game which required parental attendance, so so he is there at the volleyball game, but I told him I'd come by and just answer any questions that you might have. Mr. Dice certainly is much more in tune to what we're doing here, but let me give you just a brief history. Back a few years ago when I was sitting in your position, we were going to move our childhood center, which was K, first and second grade, from Clarkwood to Toloso Road. Kim, you probably attended that school with my daughters, as did Paul. So we ran into an absolute storm of problems with the city of Corpus Christi. The fees we thought were unreasonable, all kinds of permits that we thought were unreasonable, and the example you gave of wanting them to have you develop things, and they wanted us to do the same thing. They wanted us to put in water lines that didn't have anything to do with our project. So after some intense negotiations, we sued the city of Corpus Christi, and we prevailed in that lawsuit. And so we don't want to have to get in that position again. I think this is a brilliant move by our city manager. It pays off having someone from a different town to have a different set of eyes on how you look at things. And he certainly supported this. They brought it to the entire city council. We thought it was a great win-win for everybody in all the school districts. So I'm here to say that on behalf of Councilman Roy and myself, we think this is a great deal for the school district and for the city of Corpus Christi. And I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns that you might have. So
All I can say is better than it used to be.
Yeah,
several years back.
This will definitely be a much better policy going forward. And we'll save lots of attorney fees as well. So
Lots of red tape sounds like it's been taken care of so that we can move smoothly through.
Well, we realize
taking
that
care of our
school
bond.
districts, unlike a lot of other entities, you guys are on a fixed schedule. You know, school has to start when school has to start and those kinds of things. And we take those very seriously. So I think this will go a long way in helping you plan your business and get your schools, buildings open when they need to be open.
Yeah. We appreciate y'all
Thank you all
thinking
very
of
much
us.
for allowing me this time. Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Same to you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Mr. Dice, anything you'd like to add? Thank you for the kind words. I was the guy with the magic wand.
Nice, I'm telling you, I was stunned.
Well, here's the thing, and again,
I was ready to fire Mr. Hernandez. He saved his job.
Don't do that, because on the WebEx, when we had our first meeting, he was like, "Oh my God, can we do this tomorrow?" He's totally stoked to do it. I think the main thing, and especially when we talk about that being your newest incident with the city, is a lot of times it's just communication. Just as he said, when I've got 12 pairs of eyes looking at things differently, a lot of the times there's different nuances. I mean, we have several thousand pages of code. We want to make sure that it's easy, but most importantly, communication. So even if you're not building anything, we're still going to meet with the district representative quarterly to talk about what's going on. All the districts will get together, and so we can bounce things off each other to say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, this is kind of how we're doing it. We'll engage early in the process. So once you have your bond set and passed and you get an architect hired, we want to talk to your design professional before they even put pencil to paper. That way they can say, hey, here's our concept, this is what we're thinking. We can cure a lot of the problems in the very beginning that we don't have to cure in the end, especially as we walk through the whole process. So
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
yes. Listen, I'm an old hammer swinger. I mean, development's not that hard. It's just a lot of the times you have different people looking at, hey, this rule says you got to do this rule says you have to do that. The alley is clear. It lays everything out. You have, basically a single point of contact. We have, meetings throughout the year. It's so dumb. It's smart. You know what I mean? It really just gets down to it. So this is helpful. We did it in San Antonio. It was very successful there. We had 13 school districts on that one. Here we'll hopefully have all 7. But again, it's as you move through, the main thing is time is money. It saves you time. It saves a lot of headache. The issue that we were having on the center was extremely minor, but in an inspector's view, it's life or death. Well, it's not really life or death. So we want to make sure that those things are worked out way in the beginning than way at the end.
Thank you so much.
Yes, appreciate it.
This is awesome that we're all going to work together.
Any other questions?
All right, we have a recommendation?
Madam President, we do. It is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the school interlocal agreement for development with the city of Corpus Christi as presented.
I will make that motion. Anything that will keep this from happening what happened last time.
Paul makes the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Paul Mastella made the motion and Leo seconded. The administration's recommendation that the board approve the school interlocal agreement for development with the city of Corpus Christi as presented. All those in favor? None opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for saving my job.
Safe.
Give this guy a raise, he's awesome.
All right, moving on to agenda item 5E, a report, strategic plan goal progress measure number 4, special education.
Madam President, members of the board, I was meeting with a staff member today, and we were going over an 18-month review of what we've been doing that we'll talk about. It's fairly specific tomorrow at the admin meeting. And I said, what do you think if we prioritized the bullets on the wall, what would go first? And I was thinking bond would be number one. And they said, no, it's the strategic plan, because everything we do is related to the strategic plan. And so we go back to the strategic plan as we do every month, and we're honored to have our special education department leadership here to go over progress measure 4, and I'll turn it over to Dr. White.
So thank you very much, Mr. Van Matry. Madam President, Board of Trustees, as Mr. Van Matry has already said, we have our special education department leadership here, and I won't say too much more than that, because I think Mr. Van Matry covered it all, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn it right over to our team here.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so tonight we're going to be discussing the strategic plan, district goal number 4. So the goal number 4 is that the district will see a 5% increase of students who are exiting special ed programming, but it doesn't include the speech following the completion of the IEPs. Because speech-only kids, sometimes they're just in there, and then once they receive their services, then they come out. But we're going to talk a little bit more about the other students.
The purpose for wanting to have students exit out of special education programming is very simple, right? And it yields an incredible benefit. Exiting students from special education programming very clearly signifies that students have developed the skills that they need to work at an adequate grade level in reference to where they're at. And then it also shows that their disability is no longer having a major impact on their academic life.
So let me talk about that for a second. So what has always frustrated me with respect to children with disabilities is we know that there's going to be a percentage of our students that are going to be in our program for the entirety that they're with us. However, being tested and entering into the special education program, I don't think is for the life of your pre-K career. I believe that there's a significant amount of children that when they go through the treatment can exit the program without the supports and be successful not only during their pre-K career but also post-secondary. So I wanted us to really make a concerted effort to identify where we're at right now, how many of the kids are we exiting, and improve upon that. That's the essence of GPM 4.
So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the state compliance policy changes. because I kind of feel like this kind of ties into it. There's multiple changes that came about this summer in special ed, but we're going to focus on these. Now, the changes in dyslexia only, from moving the students that have dyslexia, moving from 504 to special education. So the students that, it used to be that the students, once they were tested and they qualified as a dyslexia student, they would receive their services. And once they would receive their services, then they would go into 504. And if they struggled years later, then they would put them in special ed. We would test them for special ed. Well, now it's turned around where if they qualify, now we're doing the testing. Special education is doing the testing. If they qualify for dyslexia, they have to go under special education and they receive the pull-out dyslexia services. So they'll go into the program, however long, it could take 2 years, 3 years. It just depends on the student, right? Once they receive those services, the goal is that they do well, and then they can move into 504 if needed to receive accommodations. Not that they stay in special ed forever. So it's kind of flip-flop, kind of ties in with what we're looking at is they get what they need and then they move forward. Now you may have some that don't and they continue to struggle, but the goal is that they get, that they learn the strategies, like Mr. Van Maitre said, because when you have dyslexia, it doesn't go away, but you learn strategies to be able to cope with it, and then you can be successful, not only in school, but even in college.
I have a question for you, ma'am. A student in 504 is a student who's receiving accommodations. When you transfer that student to special ed, that student has an IEP. So how is that going to be different? Servicing the student now is going to be, that student is now going to have an IEP, correct?
Well, the student,
student 504 is accommodations, right? So you don't have to have, an individualized education plan for a student who was in 504. But now moving to special ed, that student has to have an IEP, correct?
That's correct.
So how is that going to change the services? Are they still going to be the same, but they're going to be different? Now we're not going from accommodations, we're going to an IEP.
Well, they'll still receive accommodations, and they'll receive their pull-out program service. They'll just have an IEP, which is based, whatever needs that they need, is that hopefully, the goal actually is that the program, the dyslexia program, we currently here in the district use Reading by Design, that once they're in that program and they receive whatever they need, that then they'll be successful.
Curious about, once a student is identified as special ed, they can exit the program, but it was my understanding, I don't know if it still is so, once a student is identified as dyslexic, they're always going to be identified as dyslexic. So how are they going to exit the special ed program?
Because they can go into 504 and...
they can go back?
Yeah, they can go to 504.
Oh, okay.
And they can receive accommodations, and then they can take those on to college.
After they learn their strategies.
That's correct. 'Cause
Okay.
it's dependent, really, the linchpin here deals with that pull-out program. So because, again, you can complete that pull-out program, learn those coping mechanisms and those strategies for becoming, proficient with reading, but you're no longer getting that pull-out programming.
Okay.
Right? And so that's kind of what precludes you then from being special education on the back end of that.
And you can receive accommodations.
So at what point can it be determined that a student needs to go back into 504? How are they tested? Is it a regular?
They're tested every 3 years.
Okay.
We complete reevaluations. Right now, what we also started doing is, because of this change, we're starting over at the high school. We're looking at all campuses, but we're looking at students also that have been in 504 for dyslexia and have never been successful, because we need to catch those. We want to make sure that we catch them. And I'll be honest, we haven't had a whole lot, so that's a good thing. But we want to make sure no one falls through the cracks as well. But yes, they can receive their accommodations and they can move on into 504. And they'll get those in college. I have a daughter who has dyslexia, and she's never was in special ed, always in 504, and she's in her 3rd year of college for speech pathology. So they can be successful. Are they gonna struggle? Probably, but that does not mean they can't be successful. So, and maybe not. I know some who went through the dyslexia program that graduated in the top of their class, so just depends on the student, right? So any more questions on that?
No, thank you for clarifying that for me.
Another change was the STAR 2 eligibility requirements. The state changed our guidelines and they're a little bit stricter. And so we're looking at that and we're working with students to ensure that they receive the appropriate Tier 1 instruction on that for any students that have had to change in the testing or will change in the future.
And we wanted to make sure, especially with the dyslexia, because as you can see, it specifically states 504 to special education. We wanted to make sure that we bridge that for you because there's probably going to be an uptick in that participation numbers, right? Because that's what it comes down to. If you're that dyslexic parent, the parent of that dyslexic child, you're going to have to make the determination. If you want them to continue to receive that pull-out program, you will definitely have to then go ahead and sign off and give the okay to do the evals. And so, of course, you know, you're looking at a cross-section of kids that already exist, right? And so if you take 25, 30% of those and they move the other way into the special education, well, then you know that your label, the numbers are going to grow some, right? But then the other part to that, and the part that is excellent for this particular strategic goal, is that we can get those kids out. They get that reading, that pull-out program. They learn what they need to do. We specifically really target those issues that they have with those dyslexia IEPs, and then we push them out.
And we have until the end of next year to like if we have a student and say they're in their third year of receiving 504 pull-out, then we'll look at those and see where they're at. I mean, we're not going to right away. We have it till the end of the next year. Now, the ones that have already been, it started last year that we had to test them, special education had to test them, and then they would determine what program. But now, those have already been tested, so we can just turn around and have meetings and go ahead and put those in.
The next slide that you see there before you, ladies and gentlemen, is just a little bit of longitudinal data. So it shows the total number of students that carry the special education label in the district for the year 22-23. This was at the end of the year, ladies and gentlemen. So at the end of the year, you had 426 students that were served under that particular heading. And of those, there were 15 students that were dismissed from special ed programming over the course of that year. So even though the goal specifically stated outside, right, excluding speech-only students, but I wanted to make sure that you had all the data with that, and we talked about how important it was that you guys recognize that. So all students dismissed, that trend based on this overall number, you're looking at a 3.6% rate of students that are exiting out. But then when you pull out those speech-only kids, right, it leaves us a percentage excluding speech-only was 5 students, so that puts us at 1.2. So you can see that there was 10 of those students that exited out, but they were speech-only. So that's why the difference in the two percentages. And so then when we began the academic year 23-24, which we're currently in, as you guys know, we haven't hit, we're pushing the semester line, but we're not quite there yet. There's currently, as of snapshot, 429 students. As of now, there's 8 that have been dismissed. That puts us at 1.9%. However, again, when you exclude the speech-only students, that leaves us at just a shade under 1% at 0.7%. So that's the baseline data we have to go in. We anticipate those numbers, growing even in this year as we get to the end of the second semester.
And last year we started, that's what we ended with, 426 students. We did start the year with 300 and I believe 60 something. So our numbers have grown. But we have a good plan to make progress on
Did the numbers increase from primary, from those kids that are starting? This is your total students, correct, in special ed? So it increased with new students coming in from
everything. Yeah, new students coming in. Some of those students that were struggling and they had tried doing interventions because we wanted to try to do that first because of COVID, and now they just weren't making progress, and so they were tested in the fall.
What's the reason for pulling out the speech only?
Because speech-only students, but typically when you have a student that they're little and they go in for speech-only, they don't stay in special ed. So we were not including those because those you don't stay in more than a few years. Sometimes they do, but for the most part.
Why don't we include, I mean, why are we penalizing ourselves? Like, if you're trying to get to 5% and you're at 1.2?
Because the speech-only students, you're gonna
I
have.
think we should give ourselves a reasonable, you're trying to go fivefold. Maybe I'm missing something, but.
That was
Is
it actually
I think a
attainable?
benchmark should be an attainable benchmark. Maybe it's 3%, and then we get there, and then it's 5, and it grows. But it seems to me 5 is, we're gonna be sitting here a long time before you get to 5. Maybe I'm wrong.
Let me give you an example of the speech program. My son could not pronounce his R's when he started school. So he had speech. So he didn't need speech through special ed. He didn't need speech till probably just for a year. He started school. He couldn't pronounce. He would say wabbit, wong, white. You know.
So my argument is, it's still a win
But
for
you
our
don't wanna
teachers and for, right? It's a motivational win to get somebody through any
It is
program.
Yes, sir. I think, because the focus is what we're looking at is the ones that are staying in long-term.
Well, I get that, but I'm saying you're taking out the ones that help you with your percentage. If our percentage is a goal, you penalize yourself. You took away 2.4% of your work. Now you're at 1.2. You're, I don't know, maybe I'm missing it. You're just treading water right now. You know, I don't know. It's just something to think about, that maybe 5% is a lot.
Yes, sir. Well, and I'll be real candid with you, Mr. Trotter. I wasn't a part of the initial discussions leading up to the development of the goals, right? But in the discourse with Ms. Alvaro and just everything that we've talked about with Dr. White and such, we really want to focus on the academic piece. And I think that's a reflection of students that might not necessarily need that much academic support.
Focus.
Right, yeah, and so we kind of want to really focus in on the meat and potatoes of getting the academic piece. And that's where I would say the differentiation is, sir.
Okay. So, the next step. So one of the first things that we want to look at is exposure. Exposing students to extended Tier 1 instruction. So it's very important that they are exposed to the instruction, that they're in their classroom and they're learning the same thing that the other students are learning. The state hasn't really made it very easy for special ed. They have to take the same test as everybody else. Yes, they receive accommodations and so forth and certain things. But if they're not in the classrooms learning, then they won't at least have the opportunity to learn whatever is being taught. So that is our main focus, is that our students are in the classroom learning with the other students.
Some of the other strategies that we are wanting to implement to continue moving to that goal are to establish co-teaching models. Now, this is something that we've already kind of been rolling with. And co-teaching is a term that's been around for a long time, but oftentimes it sounds really good, and then theory into practice is not always something that happens, right? And so we've already provided some training for our intermediate campus. We had some folks from the service center come down. We customized a training for them, and it really just focused on how to utilize and maximize human capital, right? So rather than having that one teacher in a room with a cohort of 22 students and maybe 3 special ed students who might not otherwise get the attention that they need in that particular inclusion classroom. So we're then providing instruction for the paras and the inclusion teachers to have the kind of skill set to be able to facilitate some of that direct instruction along with the teacher using a variety of different models. We're also really taking advantage of some of our own homegrown talent here. There is an incredible woman, Ms. Mares, at the middle school campus, who Mr. Alvarado sitting here is sending his folks over there. And we're going to set up a time for them to come and kind of see, rather than sit and get, they're actually going to see how she facilitates that, because she has great success. So that's one of our strategies is to implement co-teaching models. And I could talk about this for a long time, I won't, but you can do team teaching, you can do alternative teaching. There's so many different types of co-teaching, exactly, that you can utilize depending on the makeup of your class and the personnel that you have. Another strategy that we plan to utilize is support. Provide consistent support by way of professional development. Again, that's something that we've already kind of started going through the motions with, and I think we've got a good connection with the folks at ESC too with regards to what we want. We were very clear that we didn't want some cookie cutter, give us some broad stroke type. We need this exactly. And so we want to continue to provide that type of professional development to our staff. And then, and it's kind of a fluid situation. So as we move along and they kind of run into snags, trying to implement a particular model or trying to, maybe they're not having some success with a certain way of doing things, we can always go back and kind of really focus in and have them customize it to that particular issue.
And then we have developing IEP plans. So develop IEP plans that push students to grow and staff to have high expectations. So when we evaluate a student, there are multiple areas that are evaluated, and it's very extensive testing. It takes hours to test a student, but you get a lot of information from that. So when you plug all that information in, you get a report, and the report will give you the student's strengths and the student's weaknesses. And when you look at that, you can use that information to develop a student plan for the student. And the focus is, what we're trying to do is change the focus, not just to be able to provide accommodations for the student, but to come up with a plan, to really look at the weaknesses and how can we come up with a plan for that student to close those gaps versus how can we come up with this plan to provide accommodations or modifications for the student, which is great. We can do that as well, but we want to go a step further and come up with a plan to close the gaps for that student, because if we continue to try to help that student, then hopefully we can close the gaps, and those would be students that could be exited out of special ed. Any questions on that?
And our presentation comes to a close with this last slide here, and this is the special education guiding principle, and it's kind of the words that we really try to adhere to and live by in our department.
So through high expectations and equitable opportunities, we will meet the needs of all special education students. And this is a motto that that our team actually put together several years ago, because we truly, truly feel that students, that if we push our students, if we have those expectations, they will exceed.
And we're seeing it now.
Yeah.
We're seeing it now.
Yeah.
We were just in a classroom at the middle school, and they're pulling out poems that our kiddos had, and they've got annotated notes, and and they're following process. You see them in the interaction. They had a Thanksgiving meal, and they were wearing us out. Mr. Van Maitre will tell you. I mean, it's really cool. Pardon the nomenclature, right? But it's really cool to hear from a campus administrator that these kids now, because now they're out in that tier 1 instruction, right? And they're getting out into the world more. And now, something comes up like interim testing, and so it changes the schedule, and they're not taking the test, right? So, maybe they have to go back to the old classroom, and they're sitting there digging their heels in and saying, well, that's not my class. My class is over there. I want to be over there. So when you start to see those kind of gains, it really kind of validates, the effort to make sure that expectations and opportunities are equitable.
And they love being with their peers. Like Mr. Dries was saying, when we went over there for the Thanksgiving meal, it was neat. I had a student that he approached me. I was sitting there, and he says, and so and who are you? And I said, I'm the special ed director. And he says, and what exactly do you do? I said, well, I kind of just oversee the program, make sure that all the students receive what they need. And he said, and do you think that they receive what they need? And I said, well, what do you think? And he says, well, I think that my program is okay, but I might need to make some changes. And he says, so are you the one that made the changes in the schedules? And I said, well, I wouldn't say that I'm the one, like I might have had a little bit to do with it. And he says, well, can you make something happen for me? I said, well, what is it? He says, well, right now, I go over there to the classes for ELA and for math, and I would really like to go for science and social studies.
Wow.
So that told me that we're doing the right thing. We're in the right direction.
That's awesome. I like your, that should really be your mission statement, because I like it, especially where it says you meet the needs of all special ed students.
We have that on our wall in our office. We have it, a big poster that we got at the print shop, and that's on our wall.
That's awesome. Years ago, special ed students were just passed along. They were just passed along. They were not given the support that they needed to be successful. It was just getting them out. So that's awesome what you do through special ed.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Moving on to 5F, update on Warpath and Compass Academy.
Madam President, members of the board, you should have received a late email from me where the agency has approved our optional flexible day initiative. So that will tie into the Compass Academy. Warpath is a huge initiative for the district. We're very proud of it. And this is a trustee request agenda item that we're honored to do. Mr. Alvarado?
Thank you, everyone. Okay. So we're here to update you on what we know as of now. We're still, at the time this presentation was created, we still had not received grades from Coastal Bend College. They just finished up. They were a week behind of TAMUK. We still had not received all the grades from TAMUK either. So you're going to get the best information we had at this particular point, and it changes kind of daily from here on. And then we'll give you the update on Compass as well. So, without any further ado, so with our Warpath Academy, the total number of courses that our students attempted were 594. That is a massive increase from where we were at with like maybe I think 90-something last year. So that was total. This is just in the semester. So number of students who passed is 454. So total number of students passed by ISD standards is 428. So what does that mean?
Can I interrupt you for a
Yes.
second? First of all, I'd like a breakdown. Number of courses taken, how many students were actually enrolled? Number of courses passed, how many students by IHE standards? I don't want courses, I'd like to know students. I'd like to know this many students were enrolled. Courses taken, those are beautiful numbers. But how many students actually took the courses? How many students actually passed and earned credit? How many students, not the standards, but actual enrolled? Yes, because the courses are great, that they took those courses, but how many of them were students, not courses? Do you have a number of students? Okay, because when we started with the Warpath Academy back in July and started promoting this, there were several students, like 700 and something, that took the initiative. How many of those students actually enrolled in a dual credit program? How many did you actually have that were officially enrolled and not courses taken, but students? How many, do you know that number?
Because we have students taking more than one course at a time, correct?
Students in Warpath who have yet to take a class. They're still waiting to take the next semester or the semester after. You have
Because?
They're freshmen. In their pathway, it's not time for.
So are these students, are any of these students that are waiting to take these classes, they are dual credit ready? They've done TSI, they've done?
Yes and no. So you have like a welding student, a freshman. Okay. They take intro to welding.
Right.
They don't take the college class till their junior year.
Right.
But they're in that pathway.
Okay.
So in order to be a welder, you have to be in the Warpath Academy. So everything goes to that. So the second year, they take Introduction to Filaments.
Their third year is when they actually take the college course. But they are still in the Warpath Academy because they're still in the college track. So when you talk about how many kids have signed up for a track that signs up for college, that's the 700 that you're talking about.
That's over 800 now, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
But of that many, Mr. Alvarado, how many students are actually enrolled in a dual credit class?
381.
That are enrolled and that are taking for credit a college course?
Correct.
All right. Out of those 300 and something that are enrolled, you have 52 withdrawn. What happened to those 52 students? Where did they go?
Various things, they weren't making it to grade, so they decided to drop out. We've had some students who moved between the time that, life happened, and they had to drop because we don't allow students to stay.
The 52 is withdrawn students or courses?
Withdrawn students.
So where did those students, all right, let's say they moved on, they moved, whatever. The students that withdrew because they were not successful, so did you put them in pardon me?
We went to Apex.
Okay, they went to Apex. Now, going to Apex, they're working to receive their credit. What happens to semester 2? Since they withdrew, they're not getting credit for the, they're not getting college
So
credit.
if I were a student in English 3A.
Right.
Okay, and I was taking Ms. Gogadubis' class, and I wasn't making the grade, so I dropped.
Right.
Well, I was 12 weeks into taking Ms. Gogadubis' class. So now they're taking Apex for English 3A, and they'll sit in a regular English class 3B because you have to pass 1301 to take
Correct.
1302.
Okay.
So we have students who failed U.S. history or were failing U.S. history A, so they're taking the Apex course in that, and they're going to sit in U.S. history 13B taught by a regular teacher. Unfortunately,
So they're not getting college credit then?
No.
Okay. I would like to see that be a little bit more specific. I know it's confusing and all of that, but there's a lot of confusion out there about when a student withdraws, they're not going to get, I don't think, I'm receiving questions about, okay, they took a college credit course, they didn't make it, they withdrew and you put them in a credit retrieval class, but they're not getting college credit for that, for whatever, 10 weeks or whatever, however many weeks. They're getting credit for just the high school equivalent. Correct. Is that something that is?
It's in the handbook.
I know, but do the parents really know? I don't want to say, well, it's in the handbook, parents can read it. Is that something is that information that is given to the parents when the students initially sign up to take dual credit classes?
So we have the parent meeting.
Yes.
There's a big old PowerPoint presentation. We go over all those scenarios.
Okay.
Now, if the parent chooses not to show up to
Well,
that
no,
particular.
right.
But we also explain it to them whenever they drop the course. The counselor or Ms. Garza will talk to the parent, tell them this is what is going to occur because you are dropping the course.
Do you know how many students actually completed the dual credit semester 1? Do you know how many completed?
Pastors by which account? The ISD standard or the
No,
IHE standard?
the IHE standards.
IHE is
454.
But did they? I want to know the credit that they earned. Do you have that? I realize that you probably don't have
We
grade.
don't have all that information because we didn't have grades from Coastal Bend College and still we're missing half.
You probably have Kingsville, don't you?
We were still missing a couple.
Yeah, and that's based off the instructors not submitting grades correctly.
No, I understand that, but do you have I would like to get an idea of how our kids are doing in our dual credit programs. You have, I know you have midterm grades, you have to have midterm grades. That has to give you an indication of how the kids are doing.
So for
Yes
those.
and
No?
So
A
it
midterm grade?
just depends on the instructor. So how an instructor grades can vary.
So you actually have.
Here's a perfect example because we had to deal with this when it happened. We had an art history teacher who used a zero-based grading system, which is very different from what we are used to here. So as our kids were progressing, this kid had A's in every single course. And then it came to time for UIL eligibility. Well, that kid got submitted a 60, failing, even though they had a 90 in the course. So we had to have a long talk with A&M Kingsville that we actually need the grade they're at right now versus where they're going to be. because of the final, so they put a 0 in for every single assignment until they get to that particular passing point. So a kid can theoretically, I got a C, I'm stopping. That's what a zero-based grading system does. Unknown to the person that, doesn't have to worry about UIL eligibility, that's a problem for us, because that child became academically ineligible because they had a 60. So we fixed it. We did a whole bunch of paperwork for UIL, but that's an example of what we're kind of at the will of the professor to give us their particular grade at that particular time. UIL eligibility hits us once a year and it's just a midterm, so that's the one we have to use. So to say midterm is the best idea depends, because if their final counts 20% of their grade, their midterm is not, it's great, but if they make a 0 on the final, well, that's the best they can do. It just doesn't translate the same way we do.
So we really, at midterm, we don't have an idea how the kids are doing.
We have an idea as far as UIL eligibility, where they're at.
Well,
when we're in the pass-fail rate,
right.
We get a list of all the kids that are failing. We bring all the ones that are failing in, and we talk to them, and we say, you need to reach out to your professor. And we found that that happened to a lot of kids, where they were, especially taking art history, where they were zero-basing, and they had an 80, at that time, but they were showed a 50.
Yeah.
So we had to fix all that, but most of our kids were pretty successful. We had a lot of A's.
And we had 76 art history students.
Don't you have some of that data in a later slide of the breakdown of the A's and the F's?
I don't.
No?
We didn't get anything for that.
So at the time, we had 256 A's, so 43% of our students received an A for a dual credit course. 19% received a B, 9% received a C, and 4% received a D.
Based on
Which
what the
is
grades you had at that
college,
time.
it's passing for college, but it's not passing for high school. So if you have those students that made a D, they still did not get credit.
Correct.
So they're gonna have
high
to.
school level.
Right, for the high school level. So you're putting them in accelerated teaching, study?
Put them in Apex.
Apex, but is that accelerated or is that just so
It's
that
on
they
their
can?
time.
It's on that, okay.
Yeah,
Do they, okay, so they're going into Apex. Those grades are not calculated into their GPA, correct? Okay, so then they get the high school credit. The D shows on their transcript
Yes.
because that's part of their college, they did receive a credit for college, but it's not a high school credit. So there's no calculation for GPA. So when they take the high school part, the part that they failed in the dual credit, and they have to repeat that semester in Apex. So the second semester is in a regular class.
Correct.
So they're working simultaneously,
Depends.
Apex and
So if you had a
semester
kid,
two?
if you had a kid, we have a kid that's gonna get an F right now, okay? We can open up Apex and they can do it over the Christmas break.
Yes.
There's nothing that's stopping the kid from doing that. They, luckily, we have a Coach Fig who always answers emails and always there to unlock tests. And she does that because she's Coach Fig. So, they're able to knock out an entire, semester in a matter of a week or two. If they really pushed it and they really had 7 hours a day to work on it, they could get it done before they started the second semester of whatever course that is. And keep in mind, it might be a little bit different. Where
Then-
Apex
then the-
leaves off may not be in the same point where they go into, like if US History A, they might have already started B semester because our calendar's like 130 days in the A's and then 70 in this. So they might have already started what, the classroom teacher might have already started what was in the A semester. And when that kid enters the B semester, there might be a little bit of a gap there. But that we should be okay. Those kids are honors level kids who just didn't make the grade.
The college credit,
Right.
okay. So they're really not, so they really are able to take, start from wherever that course is and be able to finish it without having to struggle with getting a passing grade.
We had a kid finish the whole entire Apex course in a week. If they really, like, when an intersession happens, 6 hours a day, 4 hours, 24 hours, they can knock out an entire credit if they choose to.
Can I make a request, sir? And I would like to see number of students because there was, it was brought to my attention that from the July, school had already started and the initiative that so many students had taken when we took them to A&M at Kingsville, that how many students actually signed up for a dual credit class. I would like to see number of students who are actually enrolled. Can you do that for us?
As soon as we get grades at a final?
Yeah, yes, yes.
We can definitely do all that.
Because it also said, compared to last year, where only 67 students were enrolled in dual credit. You know, I get it. I get where that could be a little bit confusing. So I would like to see a breakdown of
Sure,
how.
and we can do the same thing for Coastal Bend College, that went to their orientation versus how many.
Awesome. I prefer to see numbers instead of courses. It's a little bit, you know.
Well, let me ask you this. Based on the number passed by ISD standards in one semester, 428, do you have any idea what that would be from last year?
How many? 360 more, somewhere around that.
A significant
Yes.
increase.
500%.
Yeah.
That's students.
Yes,
Students. And you're talking sophomores through seniors.
freshmen through seniors.
Freshmen through seniors. But freshman is not, that's just, that's through Coastal Bend, correct?
No,
That-
they take art.
Art history.
Oh, art history, okay.
Speech, in any of the 3 TSI non-required.
Sociology.
Now, let me tell you where we haven't been successful. Because I think the Warpath has been a tremendous success. Where we haven't been successful is getting the kids on the campus at Kingsville. And that's been a problem.
That was one of my other questions. How many students do we have actually traveling to Kingsville? Zero. What are we doing about it next semester? It's all
Well,
online?
No, well,
We
yes.
still have those that are being taught by our faculty and staff.
So do we have no students going to Kingsville?
And from what I understand, they're a little closer to the fire than I am, is because we have so many kids that are in so many
Yes, it doesn't-
extracurricular
yeah, it doesn't-
activities, that it's not like they don't want
They have to give
to
us.
be there. They don't want to give up something in order to make that happen.
It's band, athletics, choir.
Yeah.
You basically have to be in no extracurricular activities to attend A&M Kingsville.
Yeah.
But we still want to, if possible, provide that option for them, because I really think once they start going to Kingsville and they see the ambiance that the university has versus TM High School, that it will grow. Right now, we haven't had any success there.
We do have students attending Coastal Bend College daily, our automotive.
Yes, those
They
students.
get there
I
at 6
get
in the
that.
morning, get on a bus. It's been very helpful for them.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
good.
program will continue to grow.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Okay,
Um,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
So the number of courses that we've, at this point, we have run schedules, requests, if they got a high school kid, they signed up for courses. So we have 1,044 courses that our kids will be taking next year at this point, and that was not with all the freshmen and sophomores in there.
It's about 65% the way through with all of the PGP creation that the counselors have been doing. So we're still missing a good portion of students' information in the system right now.
We're waiting star scores to see how we're going to progress with that. So far, compared to where we were last year versus where we are this year, this has been a tremendous success. When you go to college orientation, they always tell you, take a look at the person on the left, you take this, somebody, one of you won't be here. It tells you it's about 50 to 60% rate that you're gonna drop, so we far exceed that. We're like at 80% of our students are still getting a college credit, which is well above what the standard is, at the college level. So we're still providing those services to our kids. Was it a growing year? Do we know that we had some mistakes and things? Yes. Are we gonna fix them? Yes. But to take on that big of a load in 3 months, because this is how long we had, it was 3 months to plan this, get it on the running and go. I thought we did pretty good for our first semester. As we progress down the line, we'll get better and better. We know we have some kinks, some things we gotta work out, but for the amount of planning we had, to get to where we're at, I think the kids really shine. I mean, that's a lot of A's in a college, the TAMUK course, because those weren't Coastal Bend numbers, that was just TAMUK.
Yeah.
So Division II college, they're still getting that many A's, which I think is impressive, says a lot about our kids.
Do you have an idea how many credits a student can, if they follow through with?
60.
60, so they can get an associate's degree?
We have 3 of those programs. Looking for more.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay, so what, the next question we kind of wanted to tackle was, what happens if a student's not making grade or didn't make the grade? And this is straight from the handbook. As far as their GPA, if they fall below a 2.0, what happens, academic probation, academic suspension, so on and so forth. Our goal is to make sure that, hey, you took this class and you probably just weren't ready right now. So we need to make sure that you're going to take a semester off, you're going to take some time off, we'll get you back in the swing of things the next semester, and then we'll continue to work with that kid. But we really have to pay attention to what we're offering that kid. So if they weren't successful in English 1301, they might be taking art history next because they need that GPA boost. So that's on us on how do we advise our kids to make sure that they're not going to fall below that standard, that 2.0 standard where they're going to be financial aids will be impacted.
I have to say, I like that all your steps there for getting in and out of going back into your, I read it, it's good, it's really good.
Thank you. She wrote
Mr. Reese and me.
So this is the other thing that Mr. Van Mitry asked us to cover, which was how are we paying for all these thousands of classes the kids are taking? And it comes from our CSIM, outcomes bonus. So our projected 2024 outcomes bonus, this is the way we get our reimbursed because we're doing so well. We should get around $279,150 in an outcome bonus. The next question you're asked is why was 2023 zero? Remember, this is data from 2 years behind. So when we had that PEAMS mess up where we only graduated 1 kid from the high school, that was the result. So it was a $200,000 mistake that was made prior to most of us being here. But that is the reason why. So as we've gotten better at that, have less turnover in our PEAMS department, we should be getting that if we code every kid correctly. But that was a major coding.
And just as a historic kind of setup, in 2020 we received 124,000, and then in 2021 it was 117, and in 2022 we received 94,000. So this just shows that we've really ramped up all of our CCMR for our students, like the TSI testing, the making sure they take advantage of any dual credit classes, any advanced academics. But that's just a reflection of that, of all the work we've done.
Is this, with the CCMR, you get, 5,000 and 2,000 economically disadvantaged and all that?
Yeah, it's there's just multipliers based off the type of student. It's 5,000, 3,000, and 2,000.
Oh, okay, it's 532, not 552. Okay, do you have an idea of how the CCMR has, how that money's gonna be, do we have an idea what this year's gonna look like?
I don't think it's covering it because we had a zero.
Yeah, we had zero
So
money.
we're having to cover it through other means.
P-TECH grant.
Grants.
Just grants, not, okay, so we're not counting on the state to
Correct.
CCM, okay.
So hopefully next year now that we coded everything correctly, we will start utilizing that fund. So this has the potential to be just one of those self-sustaining things that, will perpetuate itself and our kids will be able to reap the benefits. But unfortunately, because of errors, we took it on the chin.
But just, it shows through historic data that we're getting better at this. We're getting better.
And the more the system gets embedded with the TSI, because that's a big indicator for your outcome bonus is passing that TSI outside of the college credits. And the more courses that you have that are TSI dependent and the more, that's, the opportunity for making money is significant.
So it's TSI, it's dual credit, it's certification, all of those things.
Can I ask, how are we doing with TSI and getting kids to sign up to take it? How are we doing with that?
We're testing every day this week.
They're on them.
Start in the 8th grade.
They're on them.
We have 4 classes testing. So every last week of the 6 weeks is TSI testing.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you sign up, you test, we take care of it. Yeah, but if a kid says, I haven't heard about taking the TSI,
They're crazy.
haven't been with it
But
100
we're
mile
also
radius.
testing every single 8th grader this year.
Oh,
So
awesome.
that way they can at least attempt it to see how it looks, because it's a test.
Yeah.
You know, like, they're gonna sit for the entire test, so that way they know, because it does take a bit of time for the entire test, rather than just, just the reading, writing, just the math, so they can see everything. Because some of these kids, like, they pass it the first semester when they're a freshman without Algebra 1.
But it's also a diagnostic test too. It gives us some ideas. So to give you an example of where we were, one of the first things I asked for from Ms. Cardenas at the high school, June, July last year, was give me, with our sophomores who were freshmen, I said, give me the number of kids that have been, the freshman class that have been successful in TSI. And it was 0. And I'd never heard of that before. Now, those numbers are going, and they do a really good job at the high school, making a concerted effort to get those kids TSI ready, because it expands the catalog of what they're able to take that we can provide for them. There's still some opportunities, minimal, that they can take college credit without TSI, but not very many.
It's only if they're doing, like, automotive or law enforcement until they hit those TSI required courses. But for A&M Kingsville, it's just 3 courses that they can take before they have to pass the portion of TSI.
Progress, moving forward.
And so we're actually being recruited. A&M Corpus Christi really is motivated to have our kids go there. And so we're looking at what programs, unique programs that they may offer that our kids would be exposed
In
to.
conjunction with A&M Kingsville or instead of A&M Kingsville?
Both. What we want to do is have as many options as we possibly can. Del Mar has even changed the way that they've interacted. They've gone to sort of the A&M Kingsville model, where there's one person at Kingsville that Mahogany interacts with, instead of 4 or 5 that we had to do with Del Mar. So you're probably going to see an uptick in that partnership.
I think
That just opens more opportunities for our
certainly does.
kids.
Well, I think I think because it's A&M Corpus Christi, they would probably have, there's pre-med, there's a lot of nursing, yes, that you can take at A&M Corpus.
Drones.
Yes, exactly. So I would think that would probably be a really good thing to have a partnership with A&M Corpus.
I agree.
Because of the courses that these kids can take, the opportunities to take those courses too. It's just a great thing. It's a good thing.
We actually run our GIS program that we have here through A&M Corpus, through our Practical of STEM class. And so our students go over there to A&M Corpus and go work with the department. And they actually just got done a couple weeks ago with working with FEMA as part of the actual process as well. But because it's a program where the actual age of the workers is right up around 60, 70, so they're looking for more people to join their program. They're promoting grants and scholarships to anybody interested in it. So right now we have a student who's a sophomore at A&M Corpus who works for the Conrad Fulcher Institute, who actually receives $20,000 scholarship for the 4 years that he's there, and he has a paid internship with them. So it's just kind of
huge opportunities.
Yes.
Huge.
So with the nursing program that we're looking at, that's gonna be a tough one to get through. Those are kids, what they're gonna have to do to get through it. It's gonna be a special type of kid who's not involved in anything. That's gonna be the trigger, because all their clinicals will be at A&M Corpus, and that just limits, can't be a band kid and do that. It's gonna be real hard to get that kind of stuff done, but we're still gonna offer it. I just don't, I know sometimes we say things, people are like, woo, but there's a
Yeah.
lot to consider.
So I'm the, woo, let's do it, and he's the, wait, bring it down. Because for nursing, it's a 6-year program. So from 9th grade, 6 years later, they're a registered nurse with a bachelor's of nursing. And that's fantastic. But then he came back and said, wait, we can't do that because it's a student who doesn't do anything else. Because they do have to travel for A&P, anatomy and physiology. That has to happen on the campus. And since it is a science class, you have the actual class 3 times a week lecture, and then you have the lab for 2 to 3 hours in the afternoon. So it becomes a really big scheduling
problem
for those students who want to do it. So it is a specific student for that program, but I think it's a beautiful program, but it is going to be a hard push for kids to want to do it.
And that would be in lieu of them getting a phlebotomy EKG, something they can use right out of college, or right out of high school, while they're working their way through nursing school.
Mhm.
So, but that's the conversations we're gonna have with those kids, and if it works out, it works out, we're gonna do it. But I just don't want, thinking we're graduating 60 nurses, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen. It'd be beautiful, but
yeah.
no.
Any questions about Warpath before we Okay, so this is a little outdated as of today, but the parent meeting was completed. We met with the parents of the students. We had a good turnout. Applications have already been turned in, except awaiting TA approval. Well, that happened today. So we are green lighted. We improved at 26 at the beginning of January. We've had 2 more applications turned in this week, so we'll be up at 28 for our first cohort. We are training with Mr. Carroll's people on January something. So,
18th.
Yes.
Do we have the clocks already?
Yes, we did.
Yes, the one at ACC is already installed.
Great.
It's not operational because the program's not ready, but the clock's ready.
So that'll be the biometric scanning for the kids to turn in, and we are ready and hoping this will be a great program. We're ready to roll with it. The next step is, now that we have the kids, we're gonna put the order in which their credits need to be completed in to graduate them on time and faster. So for those of you unfamiliar with it, just to recap, if a kid's got 8 credits left, instead of going this class, this class, this class, they knock out a credit at a time. So, like I said, a week without just focusing on that, hammer it out, hammer it out, hammer it out. It is a 0-based grading system, so once they hit the 70, they have the option to say, I'm good, and then they move on to the next one. So on and so forth until they get graduated.
And these are students that have already demonstrated mastery on state assessment.
Yes, we don't take them, if they have not, they go to ACC.
Where's the physical, where is this gonna be physically?
In Coach Fig's room.
Oh, it's gonna be, oh, it's at the high school, okay.
Yes. Well, we actually be using 2 classrooms, Coach Fig's room and Coach Sally DeLeon.
Oh, okay.
Just because we have a lot of Apex kids. But these kids will be our priority to get them through because they have a firm expiration date when we gotta get them done.
I'm glad you got TA approval, because that was one of my questions. How are you gonna do this without TA approval? And you're starting in January. Okay, good, I'm glad that happened. Yeah.
Like Patrick said, the planets are.
That's good. It's our time.
Was that developmental services making a phone call for us?
Tried to open up this place, and we opened up a new school in 2 classrooms.
They're on a roll.
So we can get you, once we get Coastal Bend College's everything, we'll be able to sit down and put it all together.
I'll bring them back in January.
I appreciate that. I'd like to know that, yeah.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving forward and making progress. This is good.
All right, moving on to 5G. Discuss and consider resolution of the board to establish non-business days for Public Information Act for the 2023 and 2024 calendar years.
Madam President, members of the board, what this essentially does is it gives us a little bit of flexibility with honoring public information requests, particularly when we're on intersessions. Legislation has allowed that. So Dr. White, you want to move forward with that?
Sure thing. Just to keep this short, since it's pretty much straight to the point, given the state's recognition of how much, I would say the scrutiny from the outside into the educational system, there's more interest in knowing certain things that are happening in the district. For instance, we receive tons of requests regarding student information and outside external consultants or groups or organizations wanting that information for whatever use they may deem appropriate for them. And so this just gives us the opportunity to build in some flexibility during intersession and during our long winter break, to where if we do receive a request during that time, we're not pressed to kind of stop the vacation we may be on to, start kind of organizing thousands of data points for, that group that's asking for that. And so given the bond and just kind of everything that we've got going on, we have definitely noticed an uptick in the number of requests that we do receive. In fact, it almost seems like we're receiving them almost daily at this point. And so this will definitely help us with that. And so we can kind of better strategize when we need to kind of take care of a request versus kind of the actual job itself and the things we're actually trying to work on and trying to do. Because I will say, depending on the request, will kind of dictate how much time we need to spend to kind of, fulfill and meet that request. So
Dr. White,
this
is this
helps.
something that you're going to be able to post somewhere to say these are the?
Absolutely. In fact, that's part of the requirement. Upon approval, transparency to the community as far as this update, that will be something that makes its way to the website before the end of this week.
Okay, thank you.
And so we're just asking for your approval, which comes in the form of a resolution.
Okay. Do we have any more questions about it?
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think so too. You should be able to have your vacation. All right. Do we have a recommendation?
Yes, ma'am. The administration recommends that the Board of Trustees adopt the resolution to establish 10 non-business days for Public Information Act for the 2023 and 2024 calendar years as delineated in Exhibit A.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Katie makes the
Second it.
motion. Almost Stella makes the second. Yes, motion has been made and seconded for the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees adopt the resolution to establish 10 non-business days for Public Information Act for the 2023 and 2024 calendar years as delineated in Exhibit A. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 6-0.
Just one question before you read the resolution. Will this be something we'll have to do each year?
It's if we choose, if we elect to, depending on our calendar. And so that's the way it was kind of presented, building in that flexibility moving forward. If we do adopt a new calendar, we may want to revisit the non-business days that we selected.
That's what I was thinking, because I looked at it, thought of it that way. Yes, thank you.
Resolution of the board to establish non-business days for Public Information Act. Whereas the Tolosa Midway Independent School District is a public school district subject to the Texas Public Information Act. Whereas the 88th Texas Legislature 2023 authorized the passage of HB 3033, which revised the act by adding section 552.0031 to the government code defining business days for purposes of the act. Whereas section 552.0031 defines business day to mean any day other than a Saturday or Sunday, a national holiday, or a state holiday. Whereas section 552.0031 establishes that a school district board of trustees may designate up to 10 additional days per calendar year as non-business days. Whereas the board recognizes that the district's 2023-2024 academic calendar includes non-school days that are not Saturdays, Sundays, or state or national holidays. And whereas the board recognizes that designating additional non-business days will allow school staff to better align with the district's academic calendar when responding to public information requests. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the board that 1, the board determines that the district will designate the specific dates listed in the attached Exhibit A as non-business days for purposes of the Public Information Act for the 2023 and 2024 calendar year. 2, future action by the board will be required to designate non-business days for future calendar years. And says 2, needs to be 3. The board hereby authorizes the superintendent to undertake additional measures as necessary to implement this designation for the purpose of the district's response to public information request, adopted by the vote of the majority of members of the Board of Trustees of the Tolosa Midway Independent School District, present and voting at an open meeting of the board on the 18th day of December 2023, at which a quorum was present. All right. Moving on to 5H, discuss and consider first reading of TASB Policy Update 122.
Do we have a video?
Yes, sir.
I love the updates.
Hello and welcome to an overview of the local policy recommendations included in Update 122 presented by TASB Policy Service. Update 122 covers recommended local policy revisions to address several new laws from the regular session of the 88th Legislature. Other revisions included in this update are in response to changes to the Administrative Code. While not covered in this overview, many of the legal policies included in this update were also affected by legislative changes that are now in effect. For information regarding those legal changes, review the explanatory notes included with your district's Update 122 materials located in the Local Manual Update section of Policy Online. Several of the new laws require the Texas Education Agency or another state agency to develop rules or guidelines that could impact board policy. After those rules or guidelines are finalized, TASB Policy Service will provide any necessary policy recommendations in a subsequent update. Please review the 2023 Post-Legislative Policy Changes Policy Alert that was emailed to the district superintendent and policy contact on August 3, 2023. That document includes additional information on other policy implications and revisions that would be handled separately as a local district update based on information your district provides to its policy consultant.
That's on chat.
You should always review your district's customized update materials available in the Local Manual Update section of Policy Online for specific policy recommendations. Please remember that legal policies provide the legal framework for key areas of district operations. They are not adopted by the board. After the board acts on the local policies in Update 122, don't forget to log into Policy Online and go to Local Manual Updates to notify us of the board's action. Policy Online makes it easy to keep track of updates and notify us when the board takes action on policies in an update. The revision to CQB Local was prompted by Senate Bill 271, which extends security breach notifications to security incidents. The definition of security incident can be found at CQB Legal, also included in this update. A new policy at CSA Local is offered to comply with current administrative code rules that require board policy to address audits of building access control. The policy also provides that the access control procedures shall not discourage properly verified parents from visiting a campus. Prior to the 88th legislative session, bus drivers in school districts located in counties with a population of less than 35,000 were exempt from the state's nepotism laws. House Bill 1789 expands the exception to allow any school district, regardless of county population, to hire bus drivers if the board approves employment. At DC Local, a note has been added referring to DBE Legal, which addresses nepotism. The note will serve as a reminder of the special requirements related to this nepotism exception for bus drivers. New text at EHB Local is in response to House Bill 3928, which requires the board to adopt and implement a policy requiring the district to comply with all rules and standards adopted by the State Board of Education and guidance published by the Commissioner to implement the program to test students for dyslexia and related disorders. The provisions on accelerated instruction are moving from EHBC Local to EHBCA Local. This aligns the local policy with the legal material that was moved to EHBCA in Update 121. Several revisions have been made to EHBCA Local in response to House Bill 1416. Recommended changes to this local policy reflect that a parent's ability to request a particular teacher after a student fails to perform satisfactorily on a state assessment is no longer limited to students in grades 3, 5, and 8. Other changes remove references to the Accelerated Learning Committee, which has been eliminated. A district must now develop an accelerated learning plan for certain students, and parents may still file a complaint about the plan in accordance with FNG. A conforming change has also been made at FL Local to now reference the Accelerated Learning Plan in the list of education records. Policy FEA Local includes a provision permitting a district to excuse student absences for visits to a professional's workplace to explore a career in that professional's field. Senate Bill 68 created this optional excused absence, which should be reflected in board policy. The provision would permit such absences for up to 2 days during a student's junior year and up to 2 days during the student's senior year, the maximum number of days allowed by law. If the district will allow fewer days or will not permit excused absences for this purpose, please contact your district's policy consultant to adjust this policy. Revisions to FFAC Local are based on Senate Bill 629, which requires a district to adopt a policy to address the maintenance, administration, and disposal of opioid antagonists at each campus that serves students in grades 6 through 12. If the district will implement this policy at campuses serving students below grade 6 or at every campus, regardless of grade level served, please contact your policy consultant for adjustments to this policy. In addition to the new law regarding the adoption of an opioid antagonist policy, Senate Bill 294 revises the district's option to acquire medication for respiratory distress and authorize its use by trained personnel. If a district's policy currently authorizes the use of asthma medication, the policy will be revised to align with this new law. For those districts that do not currently have provisions regarding this medication but want them, please contact your policy consultant who can assist with updating your policy. At FFB Local, new provisions from House Bill 3 have been added to require each campus to establish a clear process for students to report concerning behavior by another student. To meet the requirements of Senate Bill 1720, a new provision allows employees who report potential threats to elect to keep their identities confidential. That covers the local policies in Update 122. We hope you find this overview helpful. Should you have any questions or want further clarification, please contact your assigned policy consultant, and don't forget to notify us of board action on this update using Policy Online.
Dr. White, do you have any additional?
I really don't, honestly. I will say that this update has been long coming, given the 88th legislative session and just how much movement and change was occurring. And so now you're just seeing it finally reflected in the updated policies. But if there's one in particular that you have a question about, I'd be more than happy to try to answer the question.
I do, Dr. White, on the academic achievement and class ranking, it does say that the parent can request that a student may repeat a course, and the original grade has to remain on the transcript. But it doesn't say that it cannot be used for GPA calculations. Is that something that should probably be included in that?
We can add that into our regulations manual, which is our secondary grading guidelines, so that that's super clear and nobody would try to see that as a loophole to try to take advantage of
It does say to contact your policy, your.
Correct.
But if that is something that we could include in our own, to make sure that people understand, because that has come up before,
Absolutely.
that a repeated course cannot be calculated into the GPA.
No problem.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
I think it says that.
We can make it even more clear by examples and things to where if the situation presents itself where maybe that could be seen as an option to try to take a course again, to try to recoup GPA or get a better GPA, we'll just make that super clear in our reporting handbook.
Oh, I had some questions. EHB local, my questions are basically, with some of these changes, do we already meet those
Yes.
standards today?
Yes.
Okay.
We were anticipating this coming since I would say maybe June or July. And so we've been kind of on top of this already, especially with the opioid antagonist medication.
So this dyslexia was the first one though?
Correct.
So that one we meet today?
Correct.
The opioid antagonists, we also, are the nurses the qualified, I guess,
Correct.
personnel
Yes.
applicances? The next one was.
2 doses, we meet that minimum
Yes,
requirement, correct?
yes, we meet all the requirements for that.
And then the student and teacher crisis intervention, what's our mode? I know like the bully one, but if a student's in trouble,
This one's more specific to threat assessment, so that kind of, teeters on safety and security. And so I would try to turn that question over to Mr. Hernandez if he has anything to add to that.
They can report through a teacher can report through anonymous bullying.
Okay.
It's
But I
all
guess
consistent.
it's not like advertised that way, and
Well, most teachers do not have a problem with their identity being, they'll come and tell us.
but even the students on, hey, this kid.
Yes,
doing
they
some
report
weird
that all the
stuff.
time. We get the.
Yeah, so, our students are well aware of the bullying form being the catch-all form.
Okay.
We like for it to be taken advantage of for the bullying because that's the intent of the form itself, but we definitely
You see it,
capture
say it.
everything that we need to capture through that form. But that is something that, as a updated policy, we will take that to the SHAC committee second semester as well to get their feedback, to ask them if they would like to see a separate form or just to get that kind of just insight into maybe how they
I
envision
think
this
it could
being.
be like 2 links that just go
Yeah.
to the same form.
Right.
But
And
just
then options for
advertise
what you're wanting
different.
to use that form for. Yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking.
Presented where it's more understandable for
Everyone.
everybody. Yes.
And then, the last one on student records, it didn't change at all, the policy. I don't they redlined it and then put the exact same words, 7 different times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of that, to be honest.
Okay.
You see what I see, so.
Yep.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Denise.
I had one last one.
But I will say, what I can say that isn't necessarily captured in the policy for student records, that is speaking to, again, threat assessment and talking specifically about the need now for districts to send over to a new district for that student who's withdrawing and enrolling somewhere else, their 5-year discipline record.
Yeah.
And so that's really what that one's talking about. And making sure that if there is something within that 5-year discipline record, that new district is going to get that information so that there's no surprises or anything. And of course, on the flip side, for us receiving students, that would work in our favor as well.
Them excusing attendance for people to go check out jobs, I think is super cool. I did it when I was in high school. How many kids are utilizing that now, or with CT, or we super pushing that?
As soon as it's approved, we will take full advantage of it.
But to answer your question, it's just colleges right now, and they do take advantage of it.
Definitely.
Any other questions?
Yes, I do. I hope this is part of what you're talking about. With regards to the student records, let me get to my page here. Let me see if I can find it. I was curious about, in regards to this, the parents having access to a student's records, is there, and this is way back when, once a student reaches the age of 18, he is the sole person who
Custodian.
right.
They're all
Now,
records.
have you ever had the position where a student has, it happened when I was in charge of records, and a student, 18 years old, came to request, there it is, I wrote it down. A student came to request that his parents not have access to his records. He had, yes, this happened. He wrote a letter, and he put it, I just told him, write a letter, have it signed, and bring it to me, and I'll put it in your folder. So, that, I just thought that, I'm surprised that they didn't address that. The student at the age of 18 is really the owner of his records, and can request that his records not be released to whomever, to his parents.
That's correct.
Yeah, so.
I've had that situation happen to me
Yeah.
in a prior school year, so
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right. So this is the first reading only, no board action needed, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The next agenda item is to discuss and consider approval of the donation of softball dirt.
Madam President, members of the board, we have a little bit of dirt. Mr. Hernandez?
Similar to the process in turfing the football field, we have about 1.5 times more dirt from that event. With the football field dirt, we were able to make a berm by the tennis courts. In getting ready for this, we were really considering, we had requests from the athletic departments to put berms around the athletic fields. But with the Hellas and our architects looking at, and with the impact on the drainage, they strongly recommend that we did not put the berms around there. In the contract with Hellas, the soil had to be moved within a half a mile. So the open field was a logical location. Back behind the high school, I had requests to put it back there, but there's a very shallow pipeline that runs back there, and running the equipment in trucks is really not an option. In fact, that's why Hellas ended up cutting the fence so that they didn't have to go over that pipeline. So we have the dirt stored there at the open acreage that we have. The intent is hopefully that we will use it. I do need some dirt at the various campuses, and we do have a small trailer. I can carry like a half yard of dirt, and we have a tractor, and we can load it, and we're going to use it to fill holes at the primary, intermediate, and different leveling. The front field out at the high school, we're going to level out as much as we can. We will come nowhere close to using all that dirt. The hope also is in the previous construction we've done in the district, because the soils are so bad, everything is done on piers in this location. And then you need dirt to fill. So I'm really hoping that we can utilize a lot of that dirt in the construction of the new junior high or the CTE building. By chance, if we have any dirt left over, we've had a request from the softball fields that are owned by the county, or leased out to the county by us. There's a company right now that has leased them from the county named Southern Attitude Softball, and they're looking to renovate those softball and baseball fields for students, some of them being TM students. So that's why we're asking the board tonight that if there's any excess dirt left over, that we consider donating that dirt to those fields at no cost to the district. They would be responsible for all transportation costs and everything involved with that. Any questions?
Because when we were using that baseball field, how many times did it take that special absorbent in out there because it flooded?
Unfortunately, what they were really hoping is that Hellas would separate the red dirt from the other dirt, but Hellas is interested in getting everything done by February the 1st, so they took everything out quickly. Had they separated the dirt, it would have been a great benefit to them. We could have just donated off the red dirt to them, but it's all mixed in.
Dirt is like super expensive. Like, opportunity to make money off of this dirt. Like at work, I just paid 20 grand for one of my projects. It was not even, I don't know, wasn't that many cubic yards.
I think the donation, if it occurs, will be very small. And if there is a market for making money off the dirt, and we don't need it for select fill, for the junior high or the CTE, that will be an option we'll pursue. Absolutely. Because I was telling Patrick, I did see a billboard coming back from Kingsville the other day that they sell dirt. So I don't know the vendor, but I did see the billboard, and I told Patrick, I said, we may need to want to call them.
I buy dirt all the time, like at work for all the projects we have.
We
It's
think
definitely
Flint Hills
very-
may be interested in.
Pretty penny.
I had no
at,
idea dirt costs a lot of money.
I paid so for my projects, I paid for some, and then we just put a ton of dirt in our backyard and paid a number I don't want to say here, but wow. It is the new gold, yes.
I truly believe we'll be using all of that and then more at the junior high, the new junior high.
Which is also excellent because it reduces our costs, because it is expensive.
Yes. Plus the fact, putting that CTE building out there, you're gonna have a lot of dirt.
Yes.
Even though you have piers, you're still gonna have a lot of soil. A lot of soil.
Okay. Do we have a recommendation?
I do. It is recommended that the board approve the donation of any surplus soil. It's a key word. Surplus soil remaining after all the district's needs have been met to the athletic fields maintained by Nueces County. The district shall not incur any cost in the transportation of the donated soil.
Have a motion? Paul makes the motion. Do I have a second? I'll second that. Okay, the motion has been made and seconded that the recommendation that the board approve the donation of any surplus soil remaining after all the district's needs have been met to the athletic fields maintained by Nueces County. The district shall not incur any cost in the transportation of the donated soil. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 6-0. Next agenda item is to discuss and consider approval of primary exterior doors.
Madam President, members of the board, we are pulling that item due to the fact that we still don't have the necessary documentation to move forward with that. That's a very important safety initiative that we want to get before you, but at this time, we're not able to do that.
I had a question on that though. This was initially going to be covered by bond proceeds, was it not?
Yes.
But now we're using potentially grant money.
For one of the campuses.
Yeah.
The safety grant came in, I don't know if it was before, if we received that before the actual voting, or if it was after, but it's somewhere in the mix there, but yes.
Is, I guess, either what are other things the safety grant could be used for?
Very narrow because
Okay.
of the limitations of the application. Now, this is the first go-round of the safety grant, and they only allow you to spend the money on what you checked, and we checked exterior doors because it meets a minimum requirement.
Yeah.
After the minimum requirements are met, then there'll be another round of grant funding that'll be competitive.
Okay.
Is that how you see it?
That's correct, sir.
So that money that was earmarked in the bond, what are we pushing that towards now?
Cameras, more exterior doors, and then when we get an architect on board, the first thing you'll see as far as safety and security out of Proposition A are security vestibules.
Just make sure we have enough it will make sure we have enough money for all of that stuff.
Contingency, okay, I like that.
Yeah, there's
Much better.
22 million earmarked for that.
And I'm just gonna have to kind of bring us back to the agenda item. I think probably we can talk about that under the next agenda item, but on this one, since we're not
We sure can.
discussing it, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is a bond update.
Okay, we have a little slide deck that we'll put together. I think most of this information will be redundant, but it won't be for the public. Back up. No. Right there, right there. This is a timeline of events. In essence, you've seen this before in Connections, and you approved a financing plan on the 16th, and then I believe on February, I can't see that. Is there a February 28th or 29th? You roll it up.
28.
28th, it has it on here.
Okay.
Bolded.
That's going to change to a Thursday, February 29th. And I believe that's on the next slide, but that's an important date because that's when our financial advisor, Mr. Quiroga, will be here, and you will lock in the interest rates on the $45 million worth of bonds. And then, hold on a second, and then on March 26th, that's when the 45 million will be deposited into our construction account. Okay, next slide. Okay. This is some new information. Mr. Quiroga will be here on the 22nd to talk about an additional refinancing option that he believes will save the district a little over $350,000 if we look at refinancing, about $15 million worth of old debt. Do you want to talk about that for a minute, Philip?
Yeah, it's slightly different than a regular refunding, but it's also 100% dependent on what the market looks like on that day. Because if we're anticipating, if rates drop a certain amount before then, it won't be feasible. But if the rates are where they are, it's an opportunity for us to refinance some existing debt. And even though it's at a higher interest rate than what the average of the debt that we're refinancing, because of the environment, we can lock in at this rate of over 5%. That money will be put in the escrow account, and it will make more money locked in at these current rates to pay off the debt. So.
And it doesn't extend
the
payoff date.
It doesn't extend or shorten the debt, but it does save us some money.
Okay, so that's in addition to the 45 million on the first bond sale. The purpose of the first bond sale is for full funding of Proposition B and C. We can't move forward with any work on Proposition B, which is an auditorium, until we get an architect, and then he'll hire an engineer, and we'll get a pool consultant, and then we'll look at timing, and we'll look at what we can do accelerated, but that's a little different than what we can do with Proposition C, which is really cookie cutter, turf, scoreboard, padding, resurfacing tennis, and then the other projects in Proposition A are mainly with safety and security. So if we move forward with the investment team, then we'll look at what B and C is going to cost and what portions of Proposition A, so that we can invest some of that 45 and not let it lie idle. The purchaser, those are the underwriters that we'll be entering into the transition with. Philip and I will be interviewed by the ratings agency fairly soon, so that we will get an independent rating, although all of our bonds are guaranteed by the Permanent School Fund. Next slide. Okay, moving forward with professional support. We already have the request for qualifications for architectural firms on our website. It'll be published in the paper Thursday. Then there'll be a second publishing, do you know the exact date? Following Thursday. And then we have a committee that will evaluate and score, and then bring a recommendation of 1, 2, possibly 3 qualified architects or firms for your approval at the January 22nd meeting. Looking at maximize any kind of yield that we may have. The London people told me they've already made $2 million. And they said she said probably one of the best moves they've made. Their bond sales a little smaller than ours total. I believe it's in the neighborhood of $70 million. And then I've done a little work on trying to find what is in our best interest with a real estate broker. We're going to have a firm come and do a presentation at the 22nd meeting to see what options we have with land. We don't want to make that too overt because of the escalating of the price. So we will engage with a broker that has experience with governmental property sales. And then the next is the projects.
Oh, I was gonna ask, well, yeah, after the architectural, then it's an engineering firm. Do y'all get any type of project manager, or it's only like EPC engineering firm?
Good question. At this time, we've made the determination that we really don't want to give up 6 to 7% of our bond money for services that we think we can do right now. We think we have the in-house talent as far as what Philip and myself and Mr. Hernandez can bring. Now, we will engage legal for procurement and those sort of services. But right now, I would say we're leaning towards not doing that. It certainly would make our lives a little easier, but it comes at a cost that right now we don't want to pursue. Does that make sense?
Yes, it
does. So these are, you want to talk about what you have in mind with Proposition A as far as this sale?
Okay, the exterior doors at the campuses, we're hoping to move forward, we're going to move forward with keyless entry. And the current doors are not functional with keyless entry. They're the lifetime pocket doors, and there's no way feasibly to put card access on them. So we'll go in and replace those doors, and that's what we'll be working on. Hopefully by May, we'll have, in the January meeting, we'll bring to the board to get a contract going to get those started, and they'll be able to work evenings, weekends, intersessions, and starting to replace out the doors. In the camera systems, the last 2 weeks, we've looked at camera systems from the various districts around. We're kind of narrowing down towards a Vigilon which is what CCISD is using right now. It uses a lot of AI technology. I can go in, I can look for the red shirt. It will show me all the red shirts on the campus. It's compatible with Zero Eyes. The CCISD is running it on their high school campuses. It looks actively at the outside cameras for a gun coming towards the building, and that sets off their alarms, and you can lock out the building. So hopefully you wouldn't have anything like Uvalde going on. So, but there's a lot of different camera systems out there. Verkada's another big one, but Verkada's very proprietary. It's their equipment only. Whereas the other camera systems, we can use some of the equipment that we already have. So we're looking at all that.
Couple of questions real quick, Don, I don't mean to interrupt you, but remember when we first started, we talked about that security system they had in place in that school in Tennessee where it like locked down and through a fog where the person couldn't even see 5 foot in front of them? How detailed are we getting with our security plan?
As deep as we need to get, because fortunately, we have the revenue now to get the best of the best.
We're looking at stuff like that, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, we're looking at state of the art. We're not just.
Well, particularly with the new schools.
Yeah. Okay, and then the next question was, when you mentioned a comment earlier about London making money off of that, what the lady talked to us earlier. Are there restrictions on how you can use that money?
Yeah, oh, definitely. And how much you can make.
It has to stay in the bond?
Yeah, if, now, what's your were you talking about investments or intermingling funds with the propositions?
The investment money that you get.
Investment money is highly regulated, and you can't make too much money, or you have to pay taxes to IRS.
And I missed an opportunity earlier, and I don't know if I can still talk about it on the maybe I'll wait till this is over, but the inner thing with the city.
Interlocal.
Yeah, interlocal. I hope we're still looking at using that 1 acre at some point and not raining DAEP for the next 20 years. We need to get our own building, so we have an investment of our own.
Instead of leasing.
Instead of leasing for the next, because we're not.
Oh, I agree.
We're not. So I just want to make sure that, I meant to say that earlier.
That's not sustainable.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so moving forward. I think one of the main reasons that the community said yes was the engagement that we had in the community, and I want to continue that. I see that in two different ways. I see it as having a community committee that looks at everything, design work, where we're putting the schools, you name it. And then I see having periodic community meetings where citizens aren't limited to 3 to 5 minutes and they can talk. I think that has worked for us. We will continue to educate the public with key messaging on all of our media platforms, utilizing online resources, digital strategies, and comprehensive timelines. I was looking at the calendar today, and we've only had 24 business days, including today, since the election. And, there's a thin line between being impulsive and going too fast versus doing your due diligence. And I think that we've done a pretty good job of determining what we can go, and where we have to hold back, and that's what we're trying to do.
Any questions on the bond update?
I just want to make a comment, not a question, but I think it's very important to continue to inform the community of how our progress and what is actually happening. Because one question that I have been asked a couple of times, well, when are we going to see anything? Well, we haven't even gone out for a bid yet. So, but I think it's great to
Bless their hearts, 24 business days.
Yes, I know. They're excited to see stuff happening.
I like that.
Yeah.
I get asked all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I look at that as a positive.
It is, because they're really they're excited, they're really interested
Yes.
about seeing all these things that we propose for them. So I think it's great to keep the community informed in the progress of what we're doing with the bond. So thank you.
Definitely the city to widen that road back there by the stadium right now with all of those trucks back there. All right. Moving on to the next agenda item is to discuss and consider approval of consent agenda information items. Number one is the tax collection report. Any questions on that? Nope. Number two, quarterly investment report. Yeah. Number three, check payment register.
I was gonna ask, we have our lawyers like draft up contracts when other teams play at our fields?
We haven't.
Normally the athletic director. Right?
Yeah,
We have
normally
contracts.
there's a boilerplate contract, and we put in, there'll be some revisions to that as we move forward.
I guess, so, but that's what the lawyer fees were associated with for the playoff games, right?
I'm not familiar with lawyer fees for the playoff games.
It's like $200 each game.
I'm not, do you know what?
I don't remember having to consult
No.
for the, when you're talking about the football games that we hosted?
Yeah.
I don't remember having to talk to the attorney about that.
We'll go back and look at that, because there shouldn't be any fees for that. There's no reason to consult the attorneys for that.
That was my only question.
Chrissy, will you make a note? We can identify that invoice and question that.
I have a question on the Advantage Strategy Group. Is that not the figure that we talked about when we first consulted? Is that the figure? It's 20,000 something?
Not probably one check.
That was a lot.
I think it was an $85,000, and subsequently through our bond attorneys, we can reimburse ourselves through bond proceeds for that.
Oh, nice.
You have 60 days to reimburse for hard costs. So we weren't able to take advantage of the vapes, but we were able to take advantage of the metal detectors. And for professional services, it's unlimited.
Okay. Because that, on the next bullet point, my concern was the board's funding is the only one above 50% their budget. But if we can, and 100,000 of that was just bond stuff. But if we can be reimbursed for that, we have a lot more
We can.
leeway than I was expecting.
We can.
Okay.
You'll see that if I get, you'll see that on the, you might not see it on the December financials, but by January, I'll have those funds reallocated.
Okay, sweet. Just a curious question, the 6,369 to the ESC for Peam Support, was that just to finish out for a snapshot for the fall?
Is that our co-op fee, John, or do you know?
I believe so. I know it's a little confusing, but yes.
Is it, which service, is it to 2 or is it to 20?
Right.
It's to, doesn't say. That's okay, I just
I don't
was
recall
curious.
contracting with the ESC for specific Peam
It says Peam
support.
support.
I just need to look at that because that could be specific to a Peam's program like on Data Suite or something where maybe we've done something with one of their programs. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of what that could be.
If you could do that, and I could integrate it into
On
Connections.
page 16.
Let me look at the account code, that helps. Yes, that's the fee that we have to pay, that's the TSDS fee. That's the fee that we have, every district.
When I
Yeah, we don't have a
approach
choice. I
Peam,
tried
We have to pay to have the ability to upload our
Okay.
required
All right.
Peams submission
yeah,
to
okay.
the state.
It's ridiculous.
So- That's our TSDS fee.
But they don't
But they don't give you
receive
any
very
money.
much money from TEA, and they can't tax. So they depend on us for fees.
That's what I was gonna say, though, it keeps ESCs going.
I will tell you that it's gone up dramatically in the last 3 to 4 years. It used to only be $2,400.
The fee to the JJAP, is that for the year? It's 4,000 and something, is
They
that?
bill us each month, they bill us by the day, by however many days that Corpus Christi, they go by the Corpus Christi ISD calendar. So however many instructional days there are in a CCISD calendar, that's what we get billed every month for the 2 chairs that we've purchased.
Any more questions on the registry? Register? All right, number 4, November 2023 financials. Number 5, enrollment report. Number 6, regular and special called board meeting minutes. All right, do we have a recommendation?
We do, Madam President. It's the administration's recommendation that the board approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Paul Mastella makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Paul A. seconded it.
Oh, today.
Yeah, we got the double pause. Is the there's been a motion and a second of the administration's recommendation that the board approve the consent agenda items as presented. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 6-0. Future meetings, regular called board meeting will be January 22nd, 2024.
And Madam President, we don't have a new employee. We just have one that we have welcomed back. Glad you're here.
All right, do we have if there's no further business, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Do I have a second, or everybody's going to second? Leo second. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 6-0. It is 9:21 on December 18th, 2023. This meeting is adjourned.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.